Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I am your Fleet Admiral and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best bridge crew this side of a fishing cabin on Set Lake 2 with a damn good bottle of whiskey. I wish I had one right here, but I don't. Vice Admiral Eric is here and is still in awe of all of those NX-01 references. Do you have your little 3D printed model by you? Somewhere? Maybe it's somewhere. It's that way. You don't have to go. Oh, he's actually going to go get it.
It's gone.
I love the commitment. I love it. There she is. I love it. I love it. Commander Hawk is also here, and he'll take a T-88 over those TS-120s any day.
Right.
And yeah, that's right. Captain Giraffe is here, channeling that Mariner Uhura energy. Welcome back and welcome aboard. How we doing?
I'm happy I didn't fly on Air Canada.
Yeah. So speaking of, MC is Commander MC's just landing or just landed on one of those bad Cerritos shuttles that's always breaking down. So couldn't make it on the pod. We couldn't quite make it work with the video and the audio. So we agreed right before the pod started. We're going to do an SDCC wrap up on Wednesday. So we'll see her there and she could talk about her thoughts on this episode because I know she really wanted to talk about this one. I don't blame her. But she will be here for that. Knock on wood. Also joining us on our view screen, our very dear friend and host of Trek Untold, looking good in science blue, just like a good Orion. Matthew Kaplowitz, welcome back, my friend. How you been?
I'm doing good. I'm so good that I am ready to do the choo-choo dance. Not only am I ready to do the choo-choo dance, I'm willing to do the choo-choo-choo dance because I'm feeling animated tonight.
Ooh.
I am always ready to choo-choo-choo. I love it. That was awesome. Before we get started,
I'm ready for no dances. Like no dance.
No, Giraffe's feet are literally broken. They're broken.
Yeah, I'm broken.
You can see her broken feet on the Patreon OnlyFans.
We've talked about that a couple of times. That Giraffe should start a Trek OnlyFans.
That's money in the bank, baby.
She was literally showing us her butt off mic. So, you know.
Well, okay. I have like I bought a super cool, like, shorts. And it's written, this workout killed me. And there's like 3 hearts, like in Zelda. And they're like only half of one is empty. So I'm showing them my butt because like it's super nerdy, right? And like none of them are looking. And then they're like, oh, we didn't see. And I'm like, see what I work with? See, that's why a nerd Patreon a nerd OnlyFans would not work. You have 0 attention span.
You popped into my DMs though with a pic, so I got like the private butt
of my
pic.
butt.
Yeah, that's right.
I have another one that's written "Beam me hot hottie." Beam me hot hottie. Yeah.
I have one Picard ones that on the butt say "Make it go." They're wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's funny because he says things like that.
Indeed. Hello to everyone on the YouTube collective. It is good to see all of you. The chat is already hopping. I cannot keep up. Thank you for the compliments, Jedi Cat. Before we get started, a very quick note. This live stream and recording is being made during the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Without the labor of the writers and actors currently on strike, the Trek series that we review and cover on the show that we all love wouldn't exist. So remember to support the strike. Remember to support the actors, the writers. Giraffe, you had your finger up.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, kid. There are people on the chat saying that they love my hat.
Oh, yes. Well, I guess we'll just get the ad out of the way. Where's your hat from, Giraffe?
It's from Heroes and Villains, and you can have it with a discount by using Strange New Pod code. Yes,
code.
Cheese.
Strange, all caps, the word strange, 20% off. You can get the hat that Giraffe is wearing, and you could also get this dope NCC 1701 no dash USS Enterprise shirt. I have a feeling Boimler stopped at the Enterprise gift shop, bought this shirt and wears it under his uniform. That's just my headcanon. But heroesandvillains.com, 20% off using the code strange.
Your first order.
West only.
Just your first order.
For your first order.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yep.
And my lipstick, because everybody's talking about my lipstick also, hello, is from Sunset Makeup. And It's a very cool brand. You should check it out. It's not promotional. I don't have any code. I just buy their product and they're really cool. And Sunset Makeup. And you know what? If you buy anything, tell them that I sent you there and maybe I'll get free
This
stuff.
is how Giraffe's influencer career starts.
Yeah, let's go. I want free makeup more than I want free hats. Come on.
Overnight
lipsticks.
Overnight Joe in the chat is asking how much. It's a 20% off your first order. So if the shirt's like $32, you'd get 20%. I think the shirts are like $32. You get 20% off of that for your first order. So check it out. It is awesome. Let's get into the show, guys. This week, it's time to get boimed. That's right. It is the crossover episode that we have been waiting very impatiently for. Time to brush up on those temporal protocols, people. That's right. What happens when Boimler falls into a portal and winds up with the crew of Captain Pike's Enterprise? Does his blatant disregard for temporal protocol get him into trouble? Spoilers, it does. How does Mariner also end up in the past? And how does the NX-01 factor in to all of this? We're going to break it all down, but first, Hawk, you think I'd pass you up because you weren't here to do it last week, but here you are. You got to thank our patron collective at the Ready Room level and above.
So thanks to Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Wee, Takako Nagumo, Kara Kennedy, Fernando Nogales, SMK, Laura Linderman, Colin Davidson, Alan Davis, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, the homework stealing Vulcan, Maggie Light, Spapple, Wayne Ritz, Skonavark, Sean, Jay Howard, Anna Yurdadon, Mahalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Joshua Lewis, David Willett, Tara Pollen, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Joshua Miller, Adam Sanders, Eris Spension, Lanky Guy, Cynthia Markey, Aaron Volke, Carl Angoli, Michael Kwan, TJ, Mayor, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, The Chief, Ernesto Castagna, Sadano 317, Deborah Hussey, Three Fries Short.
It's a podcast.
I don't know what the... Oh, okay. Kate Tippy, Malcolm Reed. The Malcolm Reed?
It's actually Malkin. I think autocorrect changed it to Malcolm because Enterprise.
As it is wont to do. And our newest collective member, Sean Manning. Thank you. You keep the lights on.
You do indeed. We keep getting new patrons every week. It's freaking crazy. Thank you guys so much. And an even bigger thank you to our amazing executive producers, Commander Chris, Simon Stager, and the Chief Ernesto Castagna. Speaking of our patrons, I know that we weren't going to do any news, but this is an important bit of news that Giraffe has to update people on. So hit it, Giraffe.
Yes, sorry. Bad news. I mean, good news, but, bad news. Due to the strike going on, Jonathan Frakes needs to push the companion green room special that we were going to auction. I'm sure you all understand, as we do, it's important that the actors from the SAG-AFTRA and everybody working in Hollywood support what is going on and support the strike. So we know we got new patrons that came here just to bid on the seats. We totally understand if you don't renew your patron, and to thank you for your support. We will send all the people who joined between our announcement and, well, before I just said that, stickers and the card.
The postcard,
Yeah.
the Discovery Pride postcard, which just came in the mail. So we'll send those to you.
So you'll get the higher what do you call that?
The higher tiered goodies.
Tiered is the word. The higher tiered goodies to thank you for your maybe just now support, but we hope to keep you around and
stay, and you'll get more
event
goodies.
will happen. The event will happen, but we suppose that it will happen after the strike. We hope maybe September, October, November.
Tara's asking when it was supposed to take place. August, right?
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, so not happening till fall-ish. So stay tuned. We will have more details for sure. I'm going to try and push through this as fast as possible so we can get to the episode. I did put in a strange new loop because I felt like we had to. So let's do it. And the strange new loop this week, YouTube Collective, let us know your answers too. If you knew you couldn't get into any trouble for it, what is one thing, if you were from the future, that you would share with the crew of Pike's Enterprise? Who wants to go first? I know, like, you didn't have the outline to read like hours beforehand this time, so
that wouldn't have mattered.
I got one for you guys.
Hit it.
Enjoy real booze while you can, because coming soon to a starship near you, Synthale.
I don't think any of us need to go. That's the best answer. Yeah. Yep. Anybody else?
Chateau Picard wine does not get better with age.
I think that
all booze related. It's all
booze related.
Enjoy while you have it.
Yep.
I would add the food one. Enjoy your burger before Kirk just starts with the food cubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, enjoy the amazing lounge and bar that there is in the Enterprise right now, and like all the superb like sandwiches and beautiful drinks you're getting, because like an era of very strict plastic goblets food cube is coming towards you.
That's why Ortegas isn't there later.
That's right. She's like, fuck this. That. I'm getting a starbase position.
I'm a war hero. Like, I'm not going to eat food cubes.
Yeah.
Like, should we warn them about the feces, apples, and Discovery?
No, too soon, Matthew.
Let them have their dreams.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, I'd have trouble, like, thinking of anything to share because I don't want to break the timeline.
Yes,
That's
you
the only
do.
thing about the only thing I want to share with them, and that is one thing I'd like somebody from the future to come and share with us, and that even though everything looks like it's on the tip of going over the edge, and that it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Oh, you went with a serious answer.
I know.
Oh my god. Like, see, that's the one. Like, if somebody comes from the future, I don't want to know that. I want to know the booze and the food thing. I'd be like, I'm gonna stock up. I like use like dried like aged meat. I don't know. I'm gonna like have that in my bunk somewhere.
You're just gonna have like a fridge, like a set temperature, right? You're like your own private section. You can have like your own Starfleet black market. Yeah.
Contraband. All the food contraband.
This episode tonight is gonna literally be Giraffe channeling all of her Mariner energy. I'm just putting that out.
Okay,
now.
You want to know, like, once everybody watched that episode, the number of messages that I received saying Mariner meeting Uhura made me think of you. I was like,
it's true though.
Like,
it's true.
Like, so
yeah,
I'm proud. I would not change a thing.
No, I wouldn't either. We have some good answers in the chat. MC's chatting with us tonight since you can't be on the show. Spock, you're disconcerting when you smile. Haven, I would tell him all about Tuvix and how there are millions of people who love him. Remind me to ban Haven later. K Quinn writes, I do what Boimler did. I'd have to break him and Chapel up. I'm sorry. MC also says maybe tell Chapel to be more sapphic. That's good. Don't buy any real estate on Romulus from Kang. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Too soon. Maybe not too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah, stock up on Romulan ale when you can. The Gorn aren't evil. So overnight joke, Kirk dies on the bridge. Don't tell anybody that. Don't break
Kirk
anybody's
is a jerk.
Kirk is a jerk. Hey, I skipped Tara apparently. I didn't see Tara's.
It's don't feed the tribbles.
Don't feed the tribbles. That could get you in some trouble though. That could get you in trouble. The tribbles need to happen so Cisco can come later and also bring tribbles to DS9. So just saying. For me, I would just tell people not to freak out when the Klingons go from being bald to then having hair again and ridges to then having blackface and no ridges to then having ridges again. It's a very long and complicated history. As Worf says, we don't talk about it. Simple. Done. Okay? Klingons like to change how they look. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Anybody else? Good. Oh, Michael Quad, short sell Klingon energy futures. God damn. God damn. I like these. Oh, I love it. Can't see. Oh, Tara. Let's get into it, guys. It is our review of the Strange New World Star Trek Lower Decks crossover, Those Old Scientists. Our order tonight will be our amazing guest, Matthew, followed by Eric, Hawk. MC is not here. I did have her on the outline. I didn't have Giraffe on. So Giraffe will take MC's place. Matthew, Eric, Hawk, Giraffe, myself. Let's do this one. Do you think there'll be tachyons? That's right. The Lower Deckers. This episode starts off like an episode of Lower Decks, which is awesome. Led by Mariner, they go down to investigate the portal. Shenanigans are had. Spock impersonations are made. And as a hollow picture is being taken, the portal activates, sending Boimler to the past, only to see, in live action, number one, Spock and La'an. Cue the coolest animated redo of a Star Trek intro ever made. What did we think about the cold open and the intro being animated? Matthew, go off. I know how excited you are, man.
Oh my goodness. I really need Paramount to release these opening animations without any text on them. We need the animation. It was glorious. Everything about it was glorious. That was a really nice, unexpected surprise. Was not expecting that at all, to be honest. I feel like I should have, but I didn't. And I loved all the little Easter eggs that were thrown in there. I mean, we still had the little nacelle sucking entity that's attached to the Enterprise. That was just chef's kiss.
Boy just wants to eat.
He's a hungry boy. You got Space Koala as well. I marked out for the Space Koala. And all around just awesome. And I have something else I want to point out about the animation, but I might save it till we get to the last act. So I just want to say that overall, this was just, my God, that's. But I was going to say the best part of the show, and I'm like, no, we still have like 45 minutes to talk about here. So no.
Love it. I love it. Eric.
It was great. I love the animated intro. Felt like it came out of Lower Decks. The redone intro sequence was, again, like Matt said, it was chef's kiss. It was beautiful. I loved it. It looks so good, and it fit in it didn't look out of place. Like, it wasn't like them just redrawing the Enterprise just to put it out there, but they did like a phenomenal job. Everything looks so good, and it fits so well in the Lower Deck style.
Everybody said that it gave off like a really hardcore TAS vibe, like the way they animated it.
I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
No.
I felt it was more Lower Decks as well.
It was way more Lower Decks.
Yeah.
It would have been hilarious if they had done something like maybe when they were traveling through time that they like briefly turned into a TAS style character. That would have been fun.
Funny. Yes, that would have been good. The Boimler falling out of the portal into live action was so funny. Like, seeing him just be live action. I didn't watch the trailer. I don't watch the trailers because I want to be surprised. And seeing him just like
avoid it all this time.
I like the plague, man. I just stopped anything. And like him passing out and just seeing his heroes and just being like, oh, you look real out. I was like, oh fuck, that's perfect. It was great. I loved it.
Hawk.
Great cold open. I like that they just kind of went in straight to Lower Decks, because one of the things I was wondering about is like, how jarring is it going to be, like the different writing styles for the shows, right, to merge? So I'm glad that it just started with them, and the obvious cue of Boimler reading his log and that to himself, and the fact that it just didn't waste any time, and that once he got over, boom, we were in there and we were there for it.
Yeah, agreed. Norman Buckwald in the chat asked, was it the same squid that clung to both the Enterprise and the Cerritos? Long-lived species. I think it's the same squid.
Yeah.
I think it's the same.
I don't know. I think that squid died when it detached at the end.
Really? I thought he just got enough energy and was going to go hang out at Starbase 1.
But he dimmed. He dimmed like his light. I was like, that's not that's not living.
That's dark.
He went in battery saving mode. That's all that was.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. He's going to wake up at 120 years and then cling on to the Cerritos. Yeah, like a from Discovery, the season 1 of Discovery, the damn microscopic bugs.
The tardigrades.
Tardigrades, thank you, God.
They're not bugs.
Tardigrades. I know they're not bugs.
Not bugs.
Microscopic organisms. I'm sorry. I know they're not bugs.
Big cuddly bacteria bears.
Yes.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. The intro honestly got me more than anything else, but I do have to say, like, they could have started this in live action, and the fact that it starts in Lower Decks was perfect. I think it was the only way they should have done it, and I'm glad they did. I like, even if for a few minutes we do get Tendi and Rutherford, and they're just Tendi and Rutherford. Like, Rutherford's excited about tachyons. It's amazing. But yeah, to just see Boim be like, oh, you guys that pass out was just glorious. And all hail, all bow down. We praise be Space Koala. Yes.
I forgot to mention, like, from the get-go, the music that Nami made sounded just like Lower Decks. Like, she married the two styles so well. It was so good.
I think we could say this. She can yell at me if we can't, but I think everybody knows about how Hollywood, like, these things are hard to do. But like the Lower Decks theme, like anything, like getting the rights is expensive, so they couldn't use the Lower Decks theme on this. She came so close, and like you didn't need it for how close she made it sound. So tip of the hat. Nami's always freaking amazing. Let's move on. Right. Boimler wakes up.
Okay, good. Thank you for having me on the podcast, I suppose.
Did I skip you?
First question, you already skipped me.
Yes, let's go. Tradition, giraffe.
Incredible. I'm already like half dead. And I need to keep up. No, nothing to add. Just that I would have so loved for it to be a surprise. Like, imagine just like watching the next episode and being, what the, like, that would have been awesome.
Yeah,
like, I knew what they were gonna do, and it was nice. And you know, I saw it on the whole age with like everybody, and everybody was super pumped, especially when like we're like, wait, it's animation. Oh my god, that's so cool. But imagine not expecting it.
That's why I'm sad that they announced the musical. Right? Could you imagine if that episode just happened?
Yeah.
It's also a little bit, though, on if you're on like Trek Twitter a lot, like the worst kept secret.
Yeah, they had been teasing it, but still.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean,
I want to point out.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. But you can go ahead, Giraffe.
It just like, it's been a year. Like, if they could have like waited, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, or when they announced the series, you know, that would have been way better. Like, right now, for a year, everybody had like time to like just imagine everything, and we all already imagined that. You know what I mean? So it was cool to see, but it was not like the same of like having the real surprise of it. A year is a long fucking time.
There's no surprise anymore, you know?
No, I agree with that.
True. I don't agree on this.
That's why I stopped watching trailers. That is why I stopped. No, seriously, like,
No,
I remember watching The Phantom Menace the first time and being like, well, they showed the whole movie in the trailers. I was already disappointed in the movie, but then to be realized that I'd seen the whole movie in trailer form, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like for example, Picard, we didn't know what it was until the end, you know, until like episode 7 or something, and like that suspense, like
That's
that,
true.
oh my
That's very
god,
true.
what it's gonna be was like so enthralling. I would have loved for it to be a surprise.
Fair.
Like, I know it's impossible, but I would have loved for it to be surprised.
No, that's fair.
And I want to add this because I talked to one of my guests, come a friend of mine as well, LB Selznick. He was on Trek Untold a little while ago. He was in Star Trek 3 different times, and he's been watching all the new Treks. He's a fan of Star Trek. He's got Paramount Plus. He's watching, and he's never actually seen Lower Decks, and he didn't see a preview for this. So he messaged me, and he was like, "I don't know what's happening, but I loved it."
That's
so
awesome.
You know, we're all Trekkies. We're all invested in this world. But for folks who are outsiders like that, I mean, a little bit of confusion at first, maybe, but I feel like for the most part, they're all on board now.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. I've seen a few people on Twitter be like, I've never seen a single episode of Lower Decks, and now I'm going to go watch the whole thing. So,
Exactly.
Yep. Let's talk about Boim waking up in sick bay. I have to say real quick, I love that moment in the hallway where they're like, yeah, it like the communicator and the Delta are the same thing. And Pike's like, but flipping it's like the best part.
It is.
I love that. It's true. He wakes up in sick bay to see Captain Pike, who knows already that he's from the future. He gets all embarrassed in front of number 1, goes over some protocol about temporal mechanics with La'an. talks tricorders with Mbenga down on the planet, Rikers Pike's saddle in the most glorious way possible, and just among a bunch of other shit that he does to break all of the rules of time travel, because he's Boim Boim. What do we think about his lack of being able to control himself, Matthew?
Oh, Boim Boim. I loved every second of this. He was such a horrible person at keeping the protocols set. I mean, I'm trying to like pinpoint a singular line that he said. Every single thing he said was just gold. I think for me, the part I did like the most was actually when he was on the planet with Mbenga and Spock, and he's like fanboying over a tricorder, and he's like, oh, and yeah, these are great because they aside from exploding, and Mbenga's reaction is just like perfect acting right there. Like that's how you be a straight man to the wackiness of the lower decks people. That was like one of the highlights again of the episode, and I think highlight's going to be that drinking word tonight, where every time I say that, take a drink, but do so with your own caution because you'll probably be dead by the next 20 minutes.
I did a drinking game in our watch along of this on the Discord of every time Boim Boim did a Boim Boim scream. So, yeah. Yeah. Eric.
When Boimler wakes up and tries to turn off the holodeck program and then proceeds to try and hide the fact that he's from the future is some of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, he's like, yes, 5 digits, totally normal. I was like, fuck, man. He'd be the worst person to keep a secret. That being said, when everything that you've said up until, was it I guess
the Orions. Yeah.
What fanboy would not freak out to live amongst their heroes, right? I would be the same. And I'm trying to think of who I would, like, if I went back in time and I had to, not spoil anything, I would still freak out around all these people. I would ride the saddle. Fuck yes. I would.
Yeah,
I would.
Right.
I would touch old technology just to see how it works, and like, oh, this looks new. Like when we look at old, I found an old like 286 computer at my parents' house, and I was like, oh my god, does this turn on? And I kept on touching things. I was like, this computer's gonna explode if I keep poking at it. Like I would do the same if it was new. Oh man, that would be so good. It was. Yeah. He was perfect. Like, yeah, perfect fanboy.
Hawk.
We knew this was coming, right? I mean, like Lower Decks is a series, and that is like the ultimate kind of fanboy freak out, because there's references to old Star Trek throughout the entire thing, especially from like the characters from Boimler and Mariner and all down the line. So this is perfectly exactly how Boimler was going to react, waking up and having Spock and Captain Pike and Una. Una was the funniest because I was thinking, what does he know about her feelings?
Right, I got worried.
Yeah, me too. It's like he was just avoiding eye contact, avoiding talking to her, and I was like, oh god, what does he know? Why is he reacting like that to her?
Yeah,
we find out later. The saddle bit was hilarious. Come on.
Yeah. Giraffe.
Yes.
Yes.
No, everything you said. Basically, I had seen that scene like 15,000 times by the time I saw it, so I knew what was going on. Which is, I should do like Eric and not watch the thing, but I can't stop myself from watching.
I watched the first trailer and nothing else afterwards. If I'm happy with
that is your tradition.
Yeah,
that is your tradition. Yeah. Yep.
But the good thing is that we have a date, right? Which is, so anybody remember the date?
2254. That's wrong. I'm going to pull it up while you keep talking.
Heaven, what's the date?
Where are you?
Because there's one thing important in that episode, and MC's not here, so I'm going to be.
She's in the chat, though.
It. Anybody has the date or not? Nobody?
No.
Okay. We finally have a birth date for Uhura because she says she's 22.
Oh.
And he gives the log date at the beginning. So we have finally a canon date for her birth, which so far has been just like a lot of like speculation. That's really cool. That's really cool.
I was just going to say, give or take a year, because we don't know if her birthday had happened yet. Or
yeah, but it's way better than having nothing at all. Like
That's true,
we're
that's
speaking
true.
about a character that didn't have a first name until 2009,
That's true,
you know,
that's true.
and a birth date until 2023. So we're getting there.
Baby
And
steps.
yeah, and after like all the little like, you know, like jokes, like the Riker, all the little references, like that cracked me up. And it's fan service done well in the idea that it doesn't affect the plot at all. It's just here to be dumb. So I really appreciated that. Oh, here we go. 2291.6. So 2259. So do the math. 2230. 37, which is interesting because anyway, here we go. Now you can, there's math happening in the chat.
I pulled it up and I couldn't. Haven is our data, so yeah.
This episode takes place literally 3 days after they visit DS9. What?
In Lower Decks, yeah, it
Oh.
takes place in season 2 or 3. Is DS9 in season 3 or 2? I forget. It's season
So
3.
2237, and Spock is born in 2233, so that means that he's 27, which is hilarious because Ethan Peck is like 37
Oh, that is really funny.
when Celia is 22, I think. But yeah,
That's
22,
funny.
Yeah. So okay.
I want to read some comments in the chat. We got some good ones. Leave it to where did they go? I lost them already. The chat's just like Jim McMahon writes, count on Boimler to not be able to follow the temporal prime directive. Facts. Michael Kwan, Pike's description of Boimler as a toddler is the best. Worf's honor. Worf's honor. It's very true. Yes. If I was Boimler, I would have touched Pike too. Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't touch his hair. That's what I would have gone for right away.
Yep.
Yeah. I do. I love this scene. And my favorite line is when Pike, I forget exactly what Pike says. Oh, yeah. You don't look a day over 100. And Boimler just like Jack Quaid goes so high with his voice. He goes, oh, funny captain. What's going on? I'm just like, oh, my God, Boimler, you freaking nerd. I love you so much. It was so good. Loved everything about that. Let's get to Boimler on the bridge, right? Because he still can't handle himself. Pike just keeps rolling his eyes, which will be some of Anson Mount's best face, like, you know, just any kind of like movement acting throughout this entire episode. He keeps rolling his eyes and thinking that he's helping the team. Tells Pike it's an Orion ship. And when they lock phasers, Boimler tries to convince Pike it's a science vessel, even though he doesn't actually know. But yeah, the Orions steal the portal, and Pike is just done. He's just having a bad day. What did we think about? I know we kind of talked about it a bit already, but Boimlering this hard with the Orions, Matthew.
Boimler done boimed. And it's to be expected because he's still freaking out a little bit here. He still hasn't really gotten himself any decorum. I mean, he has enough decorum not to fondle Pike's hair, but still not enough to know his place on that bridge. But, you know, going back to what you were saying a moment ago, Julian, about Pike himself, you know, about Anson Mount, this scene was really him in so many ways because he is like the crux of the comedy here. And it's all those little gestures and all those little movements, like the way he's just looking at Boimler, like Pike is an annoyed parent and Boimler is his child who just can't stop fidgeting. There's so many great facial expressions, and they're very subtle. They're very tiny, but they're very, very effective. And I spoke to on my podcast Melissa Navia not too long ago, and Christina Chong, and we talked about the Elysian Kingdom. And again, both of them just kind of talked about Anson Mount and how good he is at comedy, how funny he is. And it's true. I mean, he knows how to do this the littlest things to produce the greatest effect. So to me, that's really what stood out the most in this particular part. But yeah, Boimler gonna boim.
Yeah. Eric, before you go, I want to add a part to the question for you specifically because I was listening to another podcast. I was listening to Gates McFadden's podcast, Investigates, when Anson was on. And Gates McFadden teaches and is a big lover of clown and in acting. I never did any clown study. I don't know if you did either.
I didn't do clowns.
But was this classified as some of the stuff he does in this episode as clown, or is this something else? And also, what did you think about it?
I don't think so. He's good at reacting in general. Like if you watch him in anything, like even when he was in Hell on Wheels, like he had the greatest facial expressions. You can go back to Crossroads. He had to act against Britney Spears, and he was believable. So he's a good actor. I don't think it's clown. I think that's just he has good timing. Like he has fantastic timing. Even like when we did the charades episode, his facial expressions killed me. That whole thing. It was probably my favorite part of that whole episode. That made me upset most of the time. This part.
Why?
Did we talk about that already? For such a long time. Even like the other crew members, like the reactions to Boimler on the bridge was brilliant. Like Ortega's being like, "Oh yeah, I am a war hero. Hell yes." Or what would happen after the dash? What comes after the dash? I was like, fuck, man, these are great. These are great little quips, and they all feel like Strange New Worlds mixed with Lower Decks. Like they fit, so like it fits for their characters. It doesn't feel overly Lower Decky or anything like that. I think Boimler did know it was a science vessel. I think he trusts Tendi enough to believe her and be like, yes, that is a science vessel. Yeah. Pike, on the other hand, not sure with his toddler on the bridge, who wouldn't just stay in one spot. So, yeah, Boims is boiling, and that it's awesome.
He's definitely boimling. Absolutely. Hawk.
Ensign Mount is a great straight man. I think that might be what you guys were searching for. And
I think that's him.
Yeah, he's Martin to Boimler's Lewis, basically.
I don't know. He's too sarcastic to be just a straight man. Straight man usually doesn't get the joke, right? They're usually just
a straight man usually reacts off the funny person, right?
Yeah,
and they but it doesn't mean they don't make a good joke or a good line on it, and that it's just that they come off as kind of the more straight. Cool, straight edge, and
but Pike can
their comic.
But Pike can go up with the humor there. So there's I don't know. I agree with you, but also disagree.
Anyways, I love the scene. It's Boimler. Boimler, he despite the fact that he's in the past and that, and he's really supposed to just keep his mouth shut and let these events play out. He can't help. He needs to help, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and yes, he did know, and that just based on everything Tendi said, and that he made the supposition that yes, this had to be the Orion ship that found it first. It couldn't be that much of a coincidence that there were Orions there just at that time, although there was a lot of Orion piracy, as Una pointed out. Boimler was pretty sure that was the ship, and that Tendi's great grandmother was on there. And yeah, I love basically the appeal to Pike, and that it's like you're known for your diplomacy and for your passion and for patience and
your great hair.
Yep.
Great hair, and then Spock just looks like, which is hilarious when you look at Spock's hair. So there's definitely a cultural thing here.
Poor boy.
Just get the classic cut.
Yeah, bowl cut,
right?
baby.
He was so handsome in Discovery Season 2. Come on.
But yeah,
Giraffe got so excited she froze. I love it. Keep going, Hog.
But yeah, even him trying to help, and that inadvertently changes everything. And the Pike.
Am I back?
You're back. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. No, I think it was like one of the most interesting part of the episode for me, the Orion question, the Orion discourse. I don't know. Because it's so one thing that I will say that like kind of like slightly pissed me off is that they put the conversation with Pike and the Orion pirate that we saw in the Syrian Squall in the previously.
Yeah.
Which is like, hey, remember Pike is going to react like this because he had this encounter, and I'm like, it should have been like a little bit clearer into the episode that Pike has already started to question his bias towards the Orion because of the encounter on the Syrian Squall. And I do believe that yes, they were pirate, but yes, he saw something in that captain conversation they had that started like to make him question what he thought he knew about Orions. And I think it would have been like a little bit better if it was not that subtle. Look at me asking for less subtlety. But and same thing for Boimler, because he was like mansplaining Orions to Tandy, and it took Marina to be like, maybe on that one, believe her, you know?
Yeah.
Which was like a great, same thing. Like, you should not say that, but the bias is so internalized even inside of Boimler that he has struggled just believing his friend who knows what she's talking about, because that's literally a family history, right? And when confronted with the reality of losing Tandy indirectly, right? That's where he chooses to be, what if she's right? And what if that my internalized bias like make me lose a friend? So I thought that was like a very interesting play on these two dudes who are think they know everything about everything, because let's be honest, they're like they're history buff guys, that have like a history podcast or something like this.
Yeah.
I did like during that exchange with Tendi and Boiler and that about Orions and that, but he tried
I told you so.
He tried to tiptoe in a little bit of the. He's like, what in this time period, a vocation that they'd traditionally be involved in would be.
And I like Tendi saying, "What do you think is building the spaceship?" Yeah. Like, duh. Right. Yeah. Like, it's like the same thing with the Gorn, right? Like, what do you think builds the spaceship? Like, there must be people that
I want to see a Gorn scientist.
Right, but I mean, it's logical. Like, the fact that Pike is like, or even Lon is like, oh, they're just like Predator. I was like, they build like warp-capable spaceship. There must be people among them able to do something else and just hunt people for sport and for food. So I like the fact that, there was this question of questioning your own bias. And also, like, I like the fact that Boimler is doing this because he wants to be PC, but at the same time, he realized that he may lose his friends. And there's like a lot of implication that I really liked.
Yeah.
Which like are the main force of the episode. And I'd add also that, the moment where he's like, we would have to go off the grid, and I don't know if I'm made to live in the past. Like, imagine being back in the past. Like, I would die. I was trying to put a parallel with like, who would I love like to meet, Yeah. Would I be like being fangirl? And I'm like, no historical figures, because a lot of historical figures were just assholes, like Deep-Plane, Yeah. Like everybody like touching themselves off Oppenheimer. I'm like, dude, they did horrible, terrible shit. Like, I don't want to know. But I was like, oh, if I was like Sense in 1966 on the set of The Cage and like just like be able to nerd out and be like, oh, you build this, like I'd be like super pumped. But then I was like, do I want to live through segregation? And I feel that that's what Boimler also is experiencing. Like, he's like, it's the golden age. But then you realize there's a lot of inherent internalized speciesism, racism, like, all Orions are pirates, Andorians are unstable, Vulcans are too logical, and he's from the future and he's questioning all this. And I think it was too subtle, because I thought that it would have added a layer of like deep reflection to the episode. It's here. They wanted to do that, but everybody's just laughing at the lower deck stroke, which is great, but like maybe a lot of people are missing the deeper underlying of that episode and of progress of society and how it's questioning it. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I want to go off what you just said, because MC had a great comment going off that in the chat. I like seeing social growth with Boim, pointing out how offensive it is to treat Orions like that, because in his time, it is, right? Like you were saying, like, he's looking out for his friend and is definitely seeing that stuff. She continues, it might be utopia, but it can evolve further, which is absolutely true for Star Trek.
And you see that with Una also.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's something that I took away from this. It's like the fact that they put her on the poster after everything that happened, which is fucking awesome. I don't have anything to add to this. I love Anson's. I want to just read what where'd it go? Jedi Cairo, Anson Mount's comic chops are just so underrated, and they are. Like, he's so good. And I'm for this scene and the way it was blocked specifically with Anson's acting and Boimler's acting, like, much credit to the writers, because they wrote the shit out of this episode. It's so good. But Jonathan Frakes directed the hell out of this episode. The blocking, the way everything just is right. it's so good. And I don't think that some of those facial expressions hit the same way if it's not directed correctly. Pike's line about like, well, because Boimler just won't shut up, and he's like, and you're still doing it. It's just so good, and I really appreciated that. I think I broke him. Even though Boim messed up, he still can't help himself, right? Boim just keeps going. He gets fooled into helping Chapel and Ortega's plan a surprise party for Pike as they figure out it's his birthday. He sees Spock smiling again and loses it because it's freaking him the fuck out, because he knows that Spock, when he grows up, doesn't do a whole lot of that, and chases after Chapel. They talk about this in the turbo lift, and Boimler once again talks too much. Chapel realizes through this convo that they are not gonna stay together. What do we think about Boimler kind of being the catalyst for what we know is coming, but this is kind of how Chapel finds that out? And do we think this is going to impact the rest of the season, Matt?
I think there's a lot of timey-wimey stuff happening in this episode, and I think there's a lot of self-fulfilling prophecies in this as well, for lack of a better term. And I guess Boimler is responsible a little bit for what's going on with Spock and what will ultimately happen with her. I was going to say Happle at Chapel, but happened with Chapel. I've got a theory about Spock and Chapel as a whole, if I may go on a little tangent for a moment, which is that I don't know how much actual romance there is between Spock and Chapel, and I feel like that Spock is more interested in Chapel because he feels like he doesn't need to wear a mask around her. He could have his emotions on display, and right now that is appealing to him. So romance, I don't know. We already know the ultimate fate of these two star-crossed lovers, but really at the end of the day, I think there's much more about the emotional attachment of emotions rather than the emotional attachment of a singular emotion of love. So yeah, that's kind of my tangent here. And basically, we know what happens. Boimler knows what happens. As this episode progresses, Spock kind of acknowledges that whatever happens will still happen no matter what. So he's going to keep doing what he's doing, which is kind of an interesting take on the situation. And we'll get into that, I guess, probably a little bit later on here. But it's kind of cool to see that, Boimler is among several characters who are kind of not really influencing things necessarily, or maybe they are. It's timey-wimey. And it's a really cool, nice touch they did with this episode to make it feel like it actually has impact. Because I was very worried about this episode just going to, be silly nonsense gags. But no, there's some real stuff happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Doesn't Spock later say that he's experimenting with emotions at this moment too in this actual episode? So that would be interesting.
In the episode, yep.
Yeah. So that totally pulls for your theory on it.
I love your theory. Yeah. I think it's wonderful. Yeah,
that being said, awesome. I'm not a Spock Chapel person, so I'm happy that Boim's ruins that if that's what happens. I do think that Miss Chapel did have some great acting moments when she realizes that they're not going to be together, and that she's not mentioned in the book of Spock later. That's got to be heartbreaking if you actually do. I assume she's the one that has more feelings than Spock in this relationship. Yeah. So I have nothing more to add to that.
Yeah. No, fair. Hawk?
I'm thinking of that old adage about how you should never meet your heroes and that because they'll disappoint you in that. But I think in this case, there was a little bit of a turnaround on that. It's you're very disappointing to your heroes in that. In the fact that first up, Boim and that, seeing Spock laugh and that, and the way it freaked him out and that, it freaked me out. It was
a scary shot. Well done.
It was well done the way they shot it. Yeah,
the way they framed it and that. Well,
that's some Junji Ito stuff right there.
Yes.
Kind of reminded me of that episode with Family Guy when you see Stewie laugh. I don't know if you guys remember.
Oh yeah, yep.
The real high pitched one.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's just a weird off-putting laugh, and I got the same vibe from Spock when I saw that. But yeah, as far as him and Chapel, that I know.
Oh my God, Matthew, why?
Oh God. There it is.
But
nightmare fuel.
It was wider in that shot though. It felt like his mouth just kept on going. Yeah. I was like,
yeah. Yep.
Spock is the real Meg.
Jesus.
Yeah, as far as
I want to know what the hell is going on.
Chapel, but he kind of basically ruining this for her. I know everybody's been down about it and that, but from a character perspective in that it's like he's not really respecting them at that particular moment in their lives, and that it's like he's just spilling the beans about how Spock shouldn't be like this at this moment, and because of all the important things he's going to do, and that was just it's just like Boimler with his too much information.
Yeah Giraffe.
I thank God, aka Jonathan Frakes, for giving back what is due to Trekkies. Spock smiling is fucking creepy. Like, we had to wait how many freaking episodes for somebody to be like, no, that dude shouldn't smile. And we all know a person like this. Like, when they smile, you're like, don't do that. Stop doing this. So yeah, I was like, oh, it got finally somebody understand it. Somebody understands that Spock should not fucking smile. I really like the fact that Boimler is supposed to be here. The more the episode was going, the more I was like, oh, he's supposed to go back and fuck up the timeline, because that what makes his timeline exist is that he went there and can control himself and is rectifying the fucking timeline. And we've seen it already in Quality of Mercy. Spock is supposed to do important shit. Yeah. Like galaxy level of important shit that even influenced like his sister all the way to the 32nd century. Like, my husband was like, oh, he's cock blocking Spock. I was like, yeah, he should be cock block, because that dude has stuff to do that will save bajillion of people, and like people in the sense of like full like planets and races and cultures. Yeah. Like, oh my God, like, please get him back to the like right timeline. I was so disappointed by that elevator scene with Chapel, because I'm like, yet again, the woman is here to cry. My lover is not gonna love me forever. It's like, who does that? Who the fuck does that? Like, I think I stopped doing that when I was 21. Like, even like, dude, no dick is that good. This, like, do not cry like this. For real. Like, have a little bit of like, what? She herself was like, oh my God, like, we're a relationship. We don't know if it's a cat in a box. We don't know it's alive. And now she's crying because like a guy from the future is like, is not supposed to smile. Like, bitch, what's your end game? Like, what is it with you? Like, I think it shows a toxic kind of relationship also. Like, if you're in a relationship with somebody because you want them to change to the ideal person that you think they should be with you, you should not be with that person. People are people.
Sorry to interrupt you, Draft. TOS establishes that a little bit, right? That it was a toxic relationship, whatever they had in the past. Like, there's hints towards that.
Bones is like, you're still on this? Yeah. Like, girl, like, no. And again, like, oh my God, like, it's his whole fucking culture. He grew up in this, like, and you want him to be like, no, forget your whole culture. Now you do mine. And when somebody's like, that's not what he's supposed to be, and he needs to be doing very important shit, like, you cry? Like, Chapel is written like a 60s woman in like some like rum flag, and I wanted to stop. The moment when she starts crying on the elevator, I was like, nobody does that. Like, that's a woman written, like, there's this subreddit, women written by men. Have you ever like read that? It's just like, who wrote that? Like, I'm so disappointed in this character yet again. And we've all been in a weird relationship where we went just because we wanted to experiment stuff, and then realized that we should not be doing this because the other person is a human and we should not like let them out. I mean, I've totally done that. It's very bad, but I'm grown. I'm a grown up now. I don't do this anymore. So I do like the fact that Boimler is here for a reason, even if he's a fuck up.
And even if he doesn't know that he's there for a reason.
Even he doesn't know, but like, we're like, oh, he's rectifying the fucking timeline. Thank God for the lower deckers. But can we have one episode where Chapel is not written just to be here for Spock, just existing by Spock, just existing to speak about Spock, cry about Spock? Like, I mean, even Mariner was like, oh, young Spock is hot. That was funny, because that's what anybody would fucking do. But
literally, you won't
like,
stop talking about how tight his shirt is.
Right? But would I cry over him? I may cry over Ethan Peck, but like not in public.
Right.
You know, because I have standards, which apparently Chapel doesn't. But you know, who am I to judge?
I like Kay Quinn's comment in the chat. I hope the Chapel convo causes Chapel to realize she doesn't want to be a footnote to a man's history. Hell yes.
Fuck yeah, we said that.
Right. Kay Quinn. Maybe
I don't know who you are, Kay Quinn, but I love you. Oh, what?
The fellow Romulan, it looks like. She's got Romulan Commander in the chat picture.
Oh, is that Prof Time Travel?
It might be.
Yes, I like you. I liked you already, but I like you even more now.
I like you even more. Maybe it'll even be why she doesn't go on Corby's last mission. I like that too.
I want to make a point actually about that real quick too. I interviewed Jess Bush, and I might not actually air this on my show. I haven't really decided yet what to do with it just because of what's happening with Hollywood right now.
Yeah,
but I did actually ask Jess what she thought about this because I felt the same way, that her character has really just been there to be Spock's arm candy at this point. We're just trying to get his attention. That's all her character has been this season. Her response was wait and see. So I'm putting that out there. We still have a few episodes to go.
But I mean, okay, Matthew, we've been waiting and seeing. Okay, they can do whatever they want. They're not gonna erase like 20 episodes of her doing that.
They're not.
I just mean as far as the depth of her character goes, because right now it's really been reduced to like just this. So she did say that there was more to come. Whatever that means is open for interpretation, or for us to kind of just again wait and see. Unfortunately, but I think she kind of knows that this is kind of the general reaction of a lot of us, how a lot of us feel. So.
Right.
I threw it out there for her. That's what I got.
I want to add something in the chat. Okay. She's in a professional setting. Can we like add that they're all in a fucking professional setting? Like, even if they leave on that ship, it's still the fucking job. And like, when you have such a high level job, because they're on the flagship of Starfleet, right? They're like, it's not anybody. Like, just Uhura for a cadet to be selected to be there. Like, do you see the level that they're expecting? Like, these are the badasses of the badasses. And you know that she had to like work her ass off to be there. And when they're like, oh, emotional response. No, dude, no. Like, any woman working in a high demanding professional setting will tell you, you do not fucking cry. You do not wear your heart on your sleeve in a professional setting where you have to be in a medical environment also. Especially if you're medical, you know you need to control your emotion, because if you start freaking out for like anything all the time, you're a terrible medical professional. Like, don't do this. Like, don't do this. She just
isn't that bad mental health advice to keep in your feelings though? Like,
dude, my mother was a nurse. You imagine that every time she's sad or she sees something horrible, she just starts crying in front of a rando. Like, you don't do that. You have you would not have a job. Like, for real.
Like my wife is a medical professional as well. Like she can't do anything at work, but when she comes home, she deals with it there.
But not in a turbo leaf with the young ensign that just like popped up out of nowhere, and that is literally like going through shit.
I don't know if I agree.
mean, like, stop having women just here to cry. It's a bad example.
Well, yeah, that I agree with. I think it's okay to cry whether you're a man or a woman. Like, I don't know.
And mental health in Starfleet tracks. Well, yes, yeah, it does.
I love this scene specifically for what we just said, how Boimler is here. He has no idea that he is maybe shaping the future. And let's fucking face it. Like, that's exactly what he's doing. And I do like what it sets up for Chapel, because she has just been here for Spock. We all know that. We've all said it on the show. But I'm going to say that something's going to happen soon, just judging on like trailers that we've seen. Like, she gets some kind of good news. So I think we are getting to that moment where Chapel gets to finally fucking free herself of this shit. And I think this sets that up. So I'm being cautiously optimistic. I really liked the elevator scene quite a bit.
I know what's triggering me. Chapel has been acting like a boomer. That's why he's like, it's triggering me. That's what it is. She's been reacting like a boomer woman. This is what's up. Make her a Gen Z. Let's go. I don't want to see that anymore.
Let's move on to is Uhura here? Is Uhura here? Wanting to make up for his mistake.
You guys are great, but is she here?
Is she here? Is she here? Boimler offers to help track the Orions by upgrading the Enterprise while the crew turns around. I love that Pike's just like, I'm going with it. Everything's fucked at this point anyway. The timeline's ruined, whatever. It works. Ortega's calls him Future Kid, which I adore. And in trade for some grain meant for the planet Enterprise was headed to, and then Boimler kind of fucked that all up, the Orions return the portal. And as Boimler and Pike is about to just let out a giant sigh of relief, he's about to return home. Mariner erupts through the portal, thinking that she saved Boim. In front of Pike and everyone, Mariner's just like, doesn't even really care that she time travels. She's just here for her hooer, right? Like, what did we think about Mariner's addition to this hijinks, Matthew?
Well, first off, I want to talk about Boimler's hijacking and upgrading of the system without it being seen, or in The Simpsons, Just Don't Look. It was such like a perfect kind of Star Trek thing to do, I feel like. And I know I'm using this term wrong, but I'm going to try and coin a new phrase with it here. I wanted to say Chekhov's gun, but now I'm just going to go with like Lon's Glock, because this kind of reminded me of like what we just saw a few episodes ago with Lon leaving the gun in Khan's quarters as a little kid. So I'm just like, maybe something happened here. Maybe this is actually a good thing. Maybe they needed to have this secret upgrade. And even though no one was looking, maybe it still did something because it's going to be in their logs or whatever. I don't know. That's too timey-wimey for me to think about. And that's kind of above my level of nerddom to decipher. But Mariner showing up was great. I think I said this earlier. I don't remember if I did or didn't, but I didn't realize that this crossover was actually going to be a full-on crossover when it was first announced. I figured it would just be like the opening act or the closing act to a Strange New Worlds episode.
Oh, wow. Okay. I
never actually considered it to be a full-on whole hour-long thing. So, seeing all the hijinks and then like seeing how it progressed to this point, because now we're at the official halfway mark now. Suddenly Mariner shows up and it's like, okay, now we're getting to business here. So, again, we knew it was coming because we all saw it, or most of us saw the trailers. But seeing how it happens, and I went there. Seeing how it happens, it was just like, again, perfect comedic timing, and that's just this episode in a nutshell.
Yeah, Eric. Before you go, there was a comment I wanted to read before we got on that before we got on the Chapel conversation. One of the people in our chat just got finished watching the episode. Robin Finesilver. I've just watched that episode. Absolutely brilliant. I love that someone just watched it and is here reacting with all of us. I love that. Eric, what did you think about Mariner coming through the portal?
I'm gonna go back to the thing.
Yeah.
I love
the switches.
I love that you can hot wire a starship just by going underneath it. I thought that was hilarious. And then watching the bridge crew just turn around and just be like, I guess this is cool. We're fine with this. It was such a fun comedic piece. And Jack Quaid, God, he kills me. To be honest, I'm very surprised that Mariner came in this late in the episode. I thought she would have been in it way earlier. I don't know if the trailers showed more of her or less. But I just assumed she would have been the cause of them going back when I first started watching this episode. That being said, I like the way that she came in because Gung Ho Mariner is my favorite Mariner. And then when she came through and she realized that they were screwed, she went for Uhura right away, as expected, right? Like it was like the perfect entrance for her.
Yeah, agreed. MC wrote Mariner. Not since Jake Sisko and the cook on the Titan have I identified more with a Star Trek character. Oh, I love it. Hawk, what did you think about this?
This was great. I won't spend too much time on the rewiring and that was great. Because he'd know those old systems, right? And,
I mean, you think like the nerd he is, he's studied those schematics in and out multiple times.
He's probably had like little miniature versions that he's done that to, like as a kid.
Right. The schematics are right next to the Una poster.
Yeah.
I mean, he said he made that the
ship in a bottle.
So you know that he did an Enterprise also. I'm sure with Rutherford. Yeah.
Mariner erupting through the portal, just chef's kiss and that. As Jim McMahon pointed out in the chat, and that both of them did a great job in translating like their animated characters over to live action and that. And that's always something that's really difficult to do. Every time like I hear about like some adaptation of some cartoon I like into live action, it's like we'll see. This. They just nailed it. It was great. The bickering, the back and forth between them.
And it's not just that, like their movements aren't cartoony, right, but they feel like them. Like Boimler walks like Boimler and Mariner walks like Mariner without it being like
It wasn't
goofy
cartoony.
one.
It just
exactly.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And her groans and that. Oh God, why do you have to? I love the fact that she did. This was no big thing. She traveled through the past. Oh, cool. Not where's Uhura? It's like them translating those characters into the show has just been just such a highlight. And I think a lot of people need to look to this in the future.
Definitely a bit of a blueprint for how to do this successfully, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Draft.
I this whole episode, like the first part, I was like, this is great. You're all great. Boimler is great. But where's Mariner?
Yeah.
Where's she?
Yeah.
Where's Mariner? Where's she? I was like, it was all fun, but I needed to see my girl. Like, I was like, where's she? What is happening? Why only half the episode? Where is she? And so I was like, just relieved. I was like, just looking I couldn't because I was in Hall H, but I was like checking watch, being like, the episode has like that many minutes left. If it's an hour long, how much of Mariner am I gonna get? That's all I wanted. So I was just super glad when they arrived. And I know everybody has been like, oh, they're translating like their animation, but for me, they were translating a different generation. And that's what like this whole thing was interesting. Is like the way they act towards hierarchy or in the ship or a reference to history or so on is like so well done as a different generation. Like they don't give a fuck about the same thing that these guys like give a fuck about. And I think the conversation that they have, the way they act, even Mariner when she's like in the chair or like interrupting, I'm like, they're 120 years of difference of society there is between them. Like their society went through a lot of shit compared to the TOS society we're seeing, right? And I feel that it has shuffled what's important. And it's the same way. Imagine talking with somebody from 120 years ago. When was it 120 years ago? When was that?
1903.
1903. Yeah.
Dude, like the way I speak way faster than anybody in the 1900. I can tell you that much. My slang is different. The way I cross my leg, I flop myself on the table. I talk all the time. I speak with my
flop
hand.
yourself on the table?
Like,
okay. Oh, okay.
I like.
That is not what I pictured.
Nope. I thought you did a full on like belly flop.
Yeah, same.
Oh, I can do that also.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Or put my feet up the table and for me that was this. Like there was that nudge of like two different generation, very different generation meeting each other, and I think it was great. You could read it as them doing their animated self or them being dumbass ensigns from 120 years in the future with a different set of values all together, but they still fucking save the day because they are the more open-minded one, and that's what's important in that episode.
Yeah, and I know it's 120 years, but it's also like millennials being in the same room as boomers. Like you're talking about boomers earlier,
Gen Zs.
It's like the same.
I'm a millennial, right? And I end up having like to do generation translation between boomers and Gen Z, and I'm just like, oh my god, listen to the Gen Z for 1 minute. They have this shit figured out.
And there's got to be a point like at the table where one of them had to have said something that's like the equivalent of like, okay, boomer, like your idea sucks.
1000%. Right? When she goes like, why are they speaking so slow?
I just want to say real quick, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Like, just to go off of what everyone's saying, like, the transition was perfect, but like the biggest thing is like this is Tawny Newsome and this is Jack Quaid, right? Like they have other roles like on live action shows, so like what they look like if you watch their shows. That being said, I was completely invested and convinced. Like my belief was suspended. Like that was Mariner and that was Boimler. Not once it'll be like, oh look, it's Jack Quaid just dressed as Boimler. Oh look, it's Tawny Newsome dressed as Mariner. I was like, holy fuck, it's Mariner and Boimler. The entire time, not once was I taken out of that, and that is just a job well done. There's a question I want to ask you guys. I would assume that no one asked Boimler to put things back after he updated them. To which I now ask, is this the reason why Scotty has so many fucking issues with the Enterprise from here on out?
I love this.
That's a good theory.
Like, he's like, Jim's like always like, dude, I need more power. It's like, man, I can't give you any more power. Probably because of some like workaround BS that Boimler did like 10 years ago.
Well, you know, that scene reminded me of Balance of Terror when Spock is under the console, like doing God knows
he's probably
the fuck
undoing
what.
whatever Boimler
and then
did.
He's like pushing button like above his head. Like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like almost the exact same like movement of like, you know. No, I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. And you don't know, he touched everything everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like everything, every time he was by himself, he opened like every single like console.
Tawny
like,
literally did in real life and apparently broke a bunch of shit on the set. Brilliant. I was thoroughly unprepared for how hot young Spock was. Mariner plays it cool, hits on young Spock, also gets freaked out by young, smiling, joking Spock. And Pike is just done with the entire situation. He was done a long time ago, but he's just like, nothing else could go wrong. So yeah, Mariner, you can go work with Uhura, which really means just go drink at the bar. And Boimler can work with Spock on the mineral issue. We also get that scene where Mariner explains to Una that Boims is a hardcore #1 stan, and you get the part about the pinup, which doesn't go so well at first number. It's like, I don't want to know. And yeah, that she's like this poster woman for Starfleet. What did we think about these two getting one to work / drink with their heroes, and then the pinup scene? Also, Domjot. Go, Matthew.
Well, another highlight of this particular section for me was seeing Boimler power walk. I loved it. He did it so subtly in the background, but my God, if you caught it, and you can never unsee it.
Nope.
It's like the equivalent of the stupid sexy Flanders. You're just like watching Jack Quaid.
Oh my
power walk
God,
away.
yes.
I can't unsee that now, and I don't mind. I'm okay with this. But besides that, yeah, I mean, I like what's going on here with Mariner and Uhura. The one thing I kind of had like as a note for me to question was just like, why does Uhura need a lamp in her quarters when they have like, futuristic super lights that can probably make the place a lot brighter? I don't get why she has a single lamp right over her shoulder. It just seems very archaic and anachronistic. It's just weird, but yeah, no, I like that. Again, we're kind of like getting something that's a little more timey-wimey here, where we know in TOS that Uhura is not a party animal necessarily, but she's someone that knows to appreciate personal time and to like help people relax. But at this point in Strange New Worlds, she's not that person yet. So here is now Mariner, timey-wimey stuff influencing the future of who Uhura is going to be. And Uhura is like her idol. So it's just like this great full circle thing that's happening with the lower decks people. And likewise, again, with Boimler and Spock, this is just, again, some like real brilliant stuff here. I love seeing Ethan Peck and Jack Quaid together. Everything they do is just gold. And I'm also enjoying, again, going back to like what we're talking about with Spock and Jim trying to figure out his emotions. He's like accepting that, okay, there is a future that's going to happen, but it is what it is, kind of. I'm going to keep going down this pathway no matter what you tell me. So that's kind of fun. But at the end of the day, yeah, hijinks are amazing. And that was like one of my favorite moments right there. Like, and talk about a great shot. Like, thank you, Jonathan Frakes, for giving us these hilarious, like, classic black and white comedy shots. It's like some Abbott and Costello stuff right here.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, just, again, great stuff all around. I don't really have anything bad to say about this entire episode. Sorry. And Domjot. Domjot.
Domjot.
Human. Play Domjot.
Hawk's going to go off on that. Eric, you're first.
I'm second. Are we talking about Una or Mariner explaining the second half or the first part? Time? Okay, I wasn't sure if we were talking about that later.
We are. Yep.
I liked this whole sequence. I really enjoyed that they met these people that they had idolized, but realized that they're actually normal people, and that they're like Uhura's at this point in her life that she isn't that person that they've idolized, like the super Uhura of later. Like, she's still young, she's still trying to figure out her place. I think that's really cool. It's like when I've worked at conventions, and I know how many times people like idolize actors and stuff, and then when you get to meet them and you're just like, they're normal people, they're just cool normal people. Like, that's what it felt like here, and I really like that. And then I can't add anything other than what Matthew said. Like, all the the comedic bits are amazing. They're all directed perfectly by Franks. Like this sequence is so good.
Agreed.
Hawk.
Same. I mean, like everything was great about it, starting with like, their little conference and that, and the fact how Mariner was just being so Mariner. It was that when she leaned back in the chair and she let her hands scrape across the table with that annoying squeaking sound and that, I was like, yeah, she did that on purpose. It's amazing. Like, these are like, these people she studied for, generations and that, but like, she's just there and all she really wants to do is just go hang out with Uhura. Doesn't matter. And again, Spock and like the way he just keeps freaking out Boimler and that, like, if you do not mind losing a hand, and then the smile. And then like that bit, like, remember when Spock asked him, like, do you feel lucky? I was like, where did that come from? That was Dirty Harry reference. And it's coming from Spock.
There was a lot of like references of
there were
old Hollywood stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there was one later on. We'll mention it. But,
Cary Grant. Yeah.
What else? The pinup thing, that was funny. And you mean like a pinup? Well, it's a poster and it's pinned up to his wall. Are we talking about the same thing?
I don't want to know.
Again, the difference of generation, like,
right.
Like, obviously pinups are not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they really shouldn't be in that era either, but I guess.
Right.
Yeah, it was just like this whole kind of confluence of scenes was just so packed with like jokes and inside bits and that it's hard to keep track, but I loved it.
Yeah, agreed. Giraffe.
Yeah, I just love the scene where Mariner is just sitting, like staring at Uhura, and she's like, I'm gonna help her, and she's like doing nothing. She's just sitting in her quarters and looking at her, translating stuff. And that made me laugh. And I love the fact that the lower deckers don't learn, which cracks me up to no end, because everything around them shows them that these people that they idolize at the same age than them are also fuck ups on like certain level, but they don't see it. And on some way it's beautiful, and on some other way it's kind of sad. But I like that Mariner is just like, oh yeah, I know all the code, because it helps you to slack off when like literally Uhura doesn't know the code and is literally having like a very unhealthy relationship to work. And Mariner doesn't see that she has something that her idol doesn't have. Like in the end, she still says like, oh my God, like I'm questioning, like I'm having quarter of life crisis, which is so cute, because like when you're that age, you totally can't like reflect that much on that kind of shit. Which like in the end makes it very true. And like you see that it was directed and written by people that are like older than that, which makes it very relatable for me as an old person. I mean, not old, but almost midlife, let's say. Yeah. So no, I love the fact that Mariner idolized Uhura, because why is she idolizing Uhura? Like, think of Mariner. Like, she's not a linguist, right? She doesn't want to be on the bridge. She doesn't even want to be a Starfleet officer. So what is it in Uhura that she likes so much? It's her life and work balance, things that Mariner has never researched, right? Never tried to achieve, ever. So it's interesting because as a character, Mariner, like you imagine her like, okay, she's like into Riker, you see that, but you're like, what is the thing that makes her so into Uhura? And the whole episode is also a reflection on fandom, right? Because they literally say, oh, I guess we're a fan like them. And that reflection that, the Black woman character is obsessed by the Black woman character, I find it very beautiful, because in the end, it's true. Like, Black women fans are really into Uhura and Mariner also, because you see yourself. And they managed to not make it about race, which I think here was great because it was elegantly put. But I just love that you see that Tawny Newsome herself has a lot of fan love for Uhura, and then there's this back and forth between Celia and Tawny that I think like transcends the character and transcends the episode and transcends the fandom, and there's so many layers in just that little interaction, and I found it beautiful.
Yeah, no, same. I absolutely adored that scene. I love it because, like, again, like it's them inadvertently being idiots influencing the future, right? Like, I'm guessing Mariner is somewhat responsible for Uhura becoming a little bit more laid back, right? Like, it's just what happened. Like, she gave her an Orion hurricane and here we are. It's just brilliant, but their scene is gorgeous. I love reading. And I think Tara mentioned it. I think someone mentioned it. I think it was Tara, but like, she had 1,000 books in her quarters, and that's like exactly what Uhura would have. And I loved that. Hawk,
that's why we're still pissed about the Klingon dictionary.
Right. Exactly.
We don't speak about the Klingon dictionary.
Klingon dictionary. Hawk, I'm glad, and I'm also mad that you took my Dirty Harry thunder, because I thought I was the only one that realized it was a Dirty Harry reference, but I should have known better. I almost died when he said, "Do you feel lucky?" I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? How is Spock the one that's saying this? This makes no sense, but I'm absolutely here for it. I was like, holy fuck, you're Gregory Peck's grandson. You're channeling Clint Eastwood. I don't know what timeline I'm in right now. It was wild.
And Spock fucking up an experiment also.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like...
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yes.
Experimenting with his humanity.
But listen, like, Mariner taking them all to the bar, one, like, straight out of Lower Decks, brilliant. I love that there was a bar scene. And listen, we are screaming at Paramount and the writers to be like Mortegas, right? Mortegas gets like a morsel of something here, right? Which is great. Like, she mentions more, like, we're getting little nuggets, and I know in the next episode that we're getting a lot more of those nuggets about what happened with her in the Klingon War, and like, I really like this for her. But and then the Mariner Una scene, I had it in my original outline. For those that don't know, I deleted the outline and I had to rewrite it in an hour. That sucked. And I did have us talking about how Mariner writes the wrong at the end. We will get there, but I did love that initial talk.
I love the "you're a very good bad influence."
Yeah, you are,
which like is good. The perfect like subtitle for Mariner.
Yeah,
perfect subtitle.
Yep. Don't yell Q. I haven't met him yet. They did have a Trelane type thing though going on right now. They both fail, right? Spock fucks up his experiment. They never quite really figure out like the translation, like why it worked. I don't think it ended up having anything to the solution of getting the portal to work. But they think that they're stuck here, right? And Mariner and Boimler, they both they're going to steal a shuttle so they can make things right on the Enterprise and get the grain back from the Orion so they could do this relief mission. La'an catches them and brings them to Pike, who gives them the hardcore disappointed dad speech. God, he was so disappointed, Dad. I've had this, I once was getting berated by the bus driver at school, and I told the bus driver to fuck off, and I got off the bus, and another parent was like, "What'd you do this time, Julian?" And I said, "Fuck you." And my dad obviously got the phone call, and he's like, didn't even yell at me. I just walk in the house, and he gives me that Pike look and goes, "You need to walk down there and go say sorry." You know, just like that. I'm not going to yell at you, but this is how fucking disappointed I am at you. So he gives that speech, and it's also with a little Kelvin reference, right? About losing his dad and being a year older. This is kind of a scene right out of Star Trek Beyond that Jim has with Bones. It's like, we're kind of talking about fixed points in time. So this doesn't happen to Jim anymore because this is the prime timeline. So it has to happen to someone. And now in this case, it's actually more in across the Spider-Verse. So this happens to Pike. It's kind of wild. And as they're all talking, the NX-01 gets brought up, and Pike's like, "Oh yeah, they don't build them like that, do they anymore?" And Boims gets all
Thank
like,
God.
"Yeah, right, yeah, right." His nerd light bulb goes off as Archer's Enterprise ends up becoming the key to getting them home. What do we think about this whole walking on history bit? And then Uhura Ortega's nerding out over Travis and Hoshi, and then this all being like the plot to the return. Matthew.
It was really cute actually seeing them like look basically kind of being reminded of their idols as well, and kind of just putting a nice little ribbon on this episode here. It's always fun like hearing Enterprise references because it's so rare that we see them referred to in anything really in modern times Star Trek here. But again, like highlights for me was hearing Spock explain the joke to the ready room, which was that was great too. I really wanted to hear Boimler's limerick also. I don't know about you guys.
Well, you're going to hear it later because Tara wrote it. So Tara wrote what she thinks it might have been. So we'll hear it in the mailbag later.
I'm looking forward to that then. I also enjoyed, by the way, the the dinging noise when the Heronium was ready. That was, again, just like brilliant little touch in post.
That was the one thing that actually almost took me out of this episode. I'm like, really? A ding? Come on. I don't know why it's that out of everything.
I loved it. I loved it so bad.
It was subtle too. At least it wasn't like anything really obnoxious. It was just like really subtle. If you caught it, you caught it. If you didn't, it really wouldn't have made much of a difference, I feel like, to your viewing. But yeah, as far as Pike and his actual serious moment that we're having right now here, it was again nice to have a little bit more seriousness injected into this episode because it has been a lot of that. You know, I thought this would just be a full-on farce for the entire thing, but no. Again, we come back to the fact that this has serious overtones to it, some serious impact that we're going to be seeing. Apparently, this stuff does affect the timeline as a whole. So it's really cool that they did that. It's not what I expected at all from this episode. I really didn't. And first time watching this, I've watched it now twice. Once again, just to watch, to get ready for this episode. It gets better each time you watch it, and there's so much more to analyze with it upon every other reviewing as well. But man, it's cool what they did here. Yeah. And I was even thinking about like the fact that it did reference like Kelvinverse stuff. I was just like, man, like we're acknowledging past, we're acknowledging future. It's some heavy stuff, and that's what Lower Decks has, I think, been succeeding at this season. Is kind of bringing in like different elements that shouldn't fit together, but by the end of the episode, you're like, oh, that's how those things go together. Wow.
Yeah. And just to add to what you were saying real quick, Michael Kwan wrote, Boimler gives Pike like the biggest emotional advice of the series, right? Like, let your friends appreciate you because they care for you and they will miss you, because Pike knows out of everyone like there that he doesn't have that much time left. So
yeah, that's some deep stuff for a Lower Decks crossover.
Yeah.
Real deep stuff.
Yep. It was awesome. Eric.
Agreed. I loved the Pike sequence. Yeah, it was amazing to have Boimler be the one to like shed some light. And man, when he gave that disappointed dad speech, and then later Boim's just like, take the time, and he does that smile. It reminds me of every time I get angry at my kids, and then they do something that just,
oh my God.
And then you're just like, fuck, I can't smile in front of them because they're not going to take a lesson away from this. But it
literally happened today, Eric.
Yeah, no, it happened to me today too. To me too, and I'm just like, God, you guys are too smart, and I'm just like, oh, okay, don't smile, and then I have to turn around and then do the smile and be like, okay, back.
Yeah, dude, like Caleb called Cecily like trash today. Literally said, "You're trash." And I heard about it third hand, and I went in the car and I just turned around and gave him my like most disappointed dad look, and he just gave me those eyeballs, and he knew that like there was a chance I was going to crack a smile, so he started cracking up, and I had to like turn around, like, cover my face. It's like, you mother,
damn kids,
damn kids. Yeah.
The walking over a piece of history. I love that. I love that idea that they make ships using a piece of the last ship to bear that name. I thought that was so cool. They haven't mentioned that before, did they?
They haven't. No.
So cool. And there are pieces of Enterprises everywhere, so
right? Like someone asked on Twitter, like what'd they put from the Enterprise C, and I'm like, dude, they could find the wreckage and put something in there. Like
exactly. The NX-01. Oh my God, the love for this. They showed more love for Travis Mayweather and Hoshi in this episode than they did the whole run of Enterprise. And
it's like so true.
So sad.
It hurts me so much because I love Travis as a pilot. Like that one storyline where they talked about him being from a shipping family and how they used to field the ships, and I was like, that is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more of him and more of his backstory. Knowing that he grew up to become like famous and like a gym, or was it a gym or is it a school? I can't remember what they say.
It's cool. It's called gym.
A school gym. I
mean, Giraffe has said this, and I've said it 1,000 times. Travis should have been the captain of the fucking Enterprise.
Yeah.
Period.
Thank 100%. You.
Like,
I will die
I'm
on
not
that
saying that to be
hill.
funny. Like, I literally had more space experience than anyone on that ship.
In my head, he was the next captain, because of how cool and collected he was, and he was the one that was always like down. Him and Hoshi were always the ones that were saving everything,
and Anthony Montgomery is a gem. He's like the nicest guy every time I see him at convention. So yes,
I don't doubt that.
I want a Montgomery show. Can we get him?
Yeah, let's do that.
A Mayweather show.
Let's do it.
They keep on saying that they want to
show too.
They keep on saying they want to bring Archer back. I was like, I'd rather see Travis Mayweather, man. Let's be honest.
Who was telling me that he wrote a rap album that is Trek, and then he had to like get rid of all the references to Star Trek because he didn't have the authorization of the studios.
Oh.
And then it's still like very Trek. Like if you know what you're listening to, you're like, who was telling? I think Jesse was telling me that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I need to check it out.
And again, Uhura loving Hoshi, of course.
Of course.
Right?
Wrote 8 papers on her.
I loved it. I love the NX-01 love. That made me happy. And you know, it's nice to see them nerding out over something because we don't really see that on this show. Yeah. So it was cute.
Yeah. Hawk.
To everything that we just said, all the references to Enterprise, the dad's speech and that. But for all the comedy and everything in that, there was this moment in that when they were trying to tiptoe around the fact that they knew a little something about Pike's future, and he's like, "Oh, that," you know.
Yeah.
And
does that Mariner say even the beep?
Mariner doing the chair and the light.
Like at that
he knows about that.
Yeah.
That sent me. I died. I was under my chair.
But it was a weird scene in that it kind of, for a moment, it just kind of leveled that playing field, you know. It's like where they were just tiptoeing over everything and that, because, you know, one wrong sentence and like, you know, the future you get screwed up and that. And he's like, okay, on this point, it's like, you know, at least we're kind of on the same, we're on the same level right now. Also that, I got to mention it, grapplers.
I love grapplers.
Grapplers are awesome.
The way she delivered the line was so good. It was just completely deadpan. I love grapplers.
Yep. So fucking good. Yep. You good, Hog?
I'm good.
Giraffe.
Okay, can we stop a minute and appreciate that the lower deckers are the only people giving a shit about these fucking colonists? Like,
yes, right?
That is, again, I always complain about that in Strange New World. I was like, why don't they care about the people? Like in the Ghost of Illyria, they're like, bye, see ya. Like there's so many moments where you're like, so you're just gonna do nothing? And when they just give all the
like
grain,
every episode
I'm
of
like,
TOS.
yeah, and I'm like, holy shit, like where is that thing? Like where is that thing supposed to go somewhere? Like what about the people? And the fact that Boimler asks Pelea, and he's like, but what's going to happen to the colonies? I was like, here we go. And then I realized that, yes, Strange New Worlds is TOS, and TOS didn't give a fuck about all this. But Lower Decks is post-Voyager and post-DS9, right? And you see the more caring track, the more socialist track also, like asking about the people and asking about like, what about, like, they talk about the Bell riots, like right away.
But Giraffe, your point is so good too, because it's literally the Cerritos job. Yeah, it's literally the Cerritos job to do those things.
Second contact. And like Mariner complains about it, like saying like they're good for first contact, but they don't care about the people. And you see them caring about like something at the society level, like in DS9, like with the Orions and the colonies. But you also see them care about the people. Like you will see like the crew, like you see in Voyager, like about Pike's birthday and telling him like, you don't know how long you have. Like, and I really like the fact that Lower Decks is embodying like the values of Trek chronologically also, compared to a TOS Trek who's just like boldly going, you know? And yes, they have more technology, and yes, they're dumbass ensigns, and they're like 25 and they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're like kind of a fuck up because like they're like ensign on the California class, you know. They're not like the top of their class, but I mean, he did an elective in like matter synthesis, so I guess it's good. But you see also that they're product of a different generation and a different like Starfleet history also that went through a lot of shit. Like they saw stuff like they saw, like somebody was talking about how Mariner most probably like grew up on Enterprise C or something and saw a lot of death. She was on DS9, right? And you see that they have another way of thinking when the problem is in front of them, that the crew of the Enterprise doesn't have. And in that, it really made me think of a quality of mercy, where you see that sometimes it needs somebody that has a different point of view, that has a different history, and that will see the problem through a different optic to solve the situation. And I thought it was giving so much like depth to these lower deckers that usually are the butt of the joke, but here are really the only one caring about the colonists.
That did not go over my head. I really appreciated that about this episode a lot, that like they were in the shuttle having that conversation.
And justice for Mayweather, absolutely, and justice for Shisado, like 1000%. The ding cracked me up like every single time, because if you read the novel Red Shirts by John Scalzi, there's a machine that like synthesizes anything and goes ding, and that cracked me up so much.
I feel like we've talked enough about that book that you need to talk to that author on this podcast.
Yeah,
oh my God, we need to do a book club on that book. Yeah. Like, it's like, I can't watch Trek without being like, oh my God, that's in the Red Shirt. And one last thing I wanted to say, another thing about like the lower deckers being a product of like a long history of Trek, the fact that they freaked out about the Vulcan not acting Vulcan is very Voyager, because if you learn anything on Voyager is that if Tuvok is not acting normal, this is not good.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not
this
good.
Is not good at all.
Yeah. I'm gonna get serious and I'm gonna get funny. I really liked Pike. He's like, his birthday is not a good time for him. And I love that line of, after this mission, I was going to go to Sheltec 2 and go in an ice, in a cabin to ice fish basically, and drink a bottle of whiskey, get drunk, and have that, imaginary conversation with my dad. Because I've had that moment. Like it's like writing a letter to someone that's passed that, for things that you never said to them. And it's a really powerful moment, like, especially for me. Like I've done that. Like I haven't got to an ice cabin, but I've had a bottle and I've written a note. So I get it. And I thought it was really deep. But what Eric was saying later too about being so disappointed, right? And then Mariner just has to bring up, I don't think he can handle going to the brig by getting sent to the brig by somebody dressed up as Halloween. And he had to contour the jawline, and like Pike is doing everything in his power to just not like die laughing. It was that was maybe my favorite scene of the crossover. It was so good. The Pelia scene was good. It does quote Cary Grant. It was fine though. I thought it was actually maybe like the miss of the episode. I feel like they just kind of threw it in. It was fine. Listen, you guys know how we feel about Enterprise. It's not my favorite series, but I loved it. I actually maybe was a little disappointed because the way that they were talking about it, I swear that they were going to go pull it up from mothballs and we were going to get to see it. And I maybe would have died a little bit inside, because I do love how that ship looks, even though it's a refit Akira class, but we won't talk about that.
But then we got to see the newer one. It would have been the newer one.
That we would have seen the newer one. Yeah. Yep. But this was cool. I loved it. I adored it. Mistress of the winter constellations. Let's go. With enough of the mineral now to power the Stargate, because that's exactly what this thing was. Right?
Oh.
Yep. Pike barters with the Orions with help from Boimler and Mariner, who tells the Orion captain that their friend Tendi is an Orion scientist in Starfleet and that her great grandmother is on the ship, in a really cool moment. Before they go home, I did have in my original outline, I want to talk about the conversation with Mariner and Boimler and how this connects to episode 2, and how he's just like, you're the reason I joined Starfleet at Astra per Aspera. Let's talk about them, that scene, them talking about Tendi and her great grandmother, and then going home, Ransom hitting on Boimler's Una poster, which is amazing for so many reasons because they're husband and wife. And then we get that final animated minute. A lot to unpack in the final act. What did we think about their return home and this just amazing surprise at the end, Matthew? You're muted. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
It's passing. Oh, No, you're fried. Yeah. Oh, can you mime your like explanation? Maybe, like tell us what you think.
Do you want to
about
leave
this.
and come back and see if that works?
He said yes.
I got that.
We're gonna look funny on screen for a couple of
We're
seconds.
gonna look funny. Yep, for a minute.
I'm both Hawk and me. Hawk is now Giraffe. Giraffe is Matt.
Yay!
Oh,
And Julian is a quarter of Julian.
A quarter. Just
I
a
wanted
quarter.
it now. Man, could you imagine seeing the refit? Yes. Oh,
man,
I would have loved
that. Would have
that.
been amazing. I don't want to say I was disappointed because I still loved it, but I think they built it up a little bit to be like, we're gonna see it. It was just part of the ship. Well, let's just keep going, and we'll let Matthew go out of order.
It's gonna be weird though.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll wait.
Let's just wait.
We'll shenanigans.
well, I really liked the fact that Uhura can drink everybody under the table and nobody knows that. I respect that. I respect that. And the other thing that cracked me up is that she spent days translating something that says this is a time portal. And
That
I
killed me.
felt this into my core because I have done that in my life, spending days trying like to figure out like a translation,
What is
and
this?
then
Oh,
it's
pot.
something. Yeah, and it's something like super dumb or like something that has nothing to do. Like the number of thing that you end up having to translate in an like academic paper, and it's like your wife is hot, and you just like, why did I spend so long writing something about that a drunk dude wrote 2,000 years ago? But you know, it's part of the job. So I felt that really personally.
I wonder if. Let me see. Oh no, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
Guess who's back?
Matt
Back
is
back.
back.
Back again.
Yay.
Hey, we hear you. Yay.
Hey.
Yay.
All right. Go ahead.
What the hell are we talking about?
The end, everything. The Una conversation, bartering with Orion's, Mistress of the Winter Constellations, the awesome animated ending. Go ahead.
Okay. I think the thing I just want to focus on is with the Orion scientists, or the pirates now turned scientists. I just wanted to talk about Greg Brick's acting. That was the guy who played Crass, I think was his name, right? The main Orion that we saw here.
Oh, I thought it was Liam Neeson. I keep like calling him Orion Liam Neeson.
Close enough. Yeah, close enough. I thought he just did an excellent job. You know, we've been talking this episode about like Ensign Mount's ability to react. And I feel like Greg Brick did, and I hope I'm saying his name right. I don't know if I am, but I think he did an amazing job reacting throughout the whole episode, really. Like, he had a lot of those same little gestures and little movements. And, you know, when you're acting on TV, it is about the smaller movements. It's not about the big ones. And Greg had so many really great ones that Frakes did a wonderful job catching with the way he directed it. And I think the moment that I liked the most was like when he hears Mistress of the Winter Constellation, he's like, oh, I know that. And like that moment there. Yeah, that moment right there just like speaks volumes to his acting and his episode. So that was the moment that I really enjoyed. Otherwise, I mean, I've already said it again and again. Everything's friggin' amazing this episode. There's no bad moments here at all. And I really enjoyed seeing that we got Strange New Worlds in animated form also, which I hoped that we would have gotten. We got it. It was everything I wanted, but now I want more.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Eric.
You're right. It is Greg Brick. He's a great Canadian actor. He also was the bad guy in Far Cry 5. If you played that game, he was the pastor guy. His That's All I Ever Wanted was like tear jerking. I was just like, oh my god, that scientist just wants to be known as a scientist and not as, you know, something else like that people assumed at that time. Like, oh, that was heartbreaking and amazing. To add to the crying moments, when Una heard that Ad Asper was on the poster and she was just like, she had this teary-eyed look. I got all choked up, and that's when I messaged you, Julian. I was like, oh my god, I'm crying.
Yep.
I'm crying in this episode.
We cried at the same spot.
Oh my god. Those are two beautiful moments. I do think there was a missed opportunity in not seeing what's her name? Tendi, like as her grandmother, right? Like,
Oh my god, so much.
she could have just been right there.
Carbon Creek. I was expecting a carbon Craig.
Yeah.
Give me a carbon Craig.
Or even
I was
like,
kind of hoping we'd see him through the portal.
or even that, yeah, right? Seeing Rutherford poking through, like you hear his voice. I was like, ooh, are we finally going to see live action Rutherford? Nope, it didn't happen. So that was a little, this episode that I loved, that was the little bit of disappointment that I had. That being said, the last animated sequence with the Strange New Worlds cast was amazing, and I like that they were seeing this because they were drunk. And I'm not going to steal the thunder of what was said in our chat about that, because
My theory.
yes, so I will leave that. But I think that's a brilliant theory. I think it's brilliant.
A lot of people are loving it on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then obviously Ransom hitting on his wife, like that's so funny. That made me giggle so much.
Numero uno.
Numero uno. Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell tried at least once
Had
to
to get
to
on
do
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hog.
In the interest of being brief and time and everything and that, I agree with everything everybody said. The one thing I wanted to point out was that Mariner had the best line in this when she and Boimler were arguing in that. And he's like, "Oh, we fought for this, to get us on this expedition." And she's like, "No, I didn't. Ransom's an idiot. He sleeps on his face like a baby."
I felt called out at that moment.
Yeah.
This was the way it ended. It was just perfect. Couldn't agree more.
Draft.
Oh, I'm gonna go off a little bit because I think that end justified that whole episode. I was very worried that they would do just a Lower Decks episode in the AD. No, that's not true. But just a fan service episode with a lot of cracking jokes and some very light and funny and kind of not, I don't want to say stupid, but you know what I mean, very light. And I'm so glad that they used the Lower Deckers to question this generational difference and how the society has grown. Because I was having this conversation with Jesse the other day, and I was saying how desperate I am when I see the news and what's going on in the US and how I feel we're going backward. Mm-hmm. And she told me, in the end, history always go forward. And even if we feel like right now in our little speck of time, we're going backward, in the great scheme of things, we will go forward. And this episode really made me think of this, that, Una, it's a few months or weeks after her trial where she had to go through all that shit, and she realized that in the future, because I'm sure that's not going to be during her lifetime, right? She will be the poster girl for Starfleet, that in the end, it may go worse before it gets better, but it will get better. And same thing for the Orions. These Orion scientists, Pike almost fucking killed all of them.
Sure did.
If it was not for Boimler on the bridge, they would all have been dead. And that tells you how fucking horrible this is, right? Because they are a science vessel and they are scientists. And that wrong that most probably happened in other places, these Orions would have been blown to bits because there must be pirates, people getting shot because there must be criminals. The fact that you see that in 120 years, it has changes so much that even if a lot of people still have this ingrained bias, there are Orion scientists in Starfleet. And Una, an augment, an Illyrian, is the poster girl for Starfleet. This is such a message of hope that, we may go backwards right now, but in the end, it will get better. And just yesterday, I don't know if you saw, but Biden just designated an acknowledgement to Emmett Till. And
Sorry, guys, we're waiting on Draft to come back. Draft, we miss you. Come back.
I want to know what she's talking about. I missed this
I do
news.
too.
I know,
right?
Emmett Till.
I don't know if you know, Canada's suppressing our news right now. No, that's Canadian news.
will be have for the next generation, and that's really this. These
draft.
Yes,
We're gonna
yes,
stop you.
yes.
We didn't hear you for about 30 seconds. So can you go back to Emmett Till?
Oh my God, I said so many good things.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
When we were all like really wanting to hear it. Sorry.
I was saying, that Biden just dedicated a national monument to Emmett Till and his mother. And, that was not a long time ago, right? That was not a long time ago at all. Like, a lot of people remember that. A lot of people are still alive that did that, right? And sure, it's not perfect right now, and sure, we're going backwards on things that, like, rights we had, like, abortion rights, for example, and we're losing rights. But I do believe, and I do want to believe, and I do want to hold to this, like, with all my might, that in the end, we will progress, and we will be better, and we will stop murdering people, and we will stop thinking that, oh, he looks like this, so must be a criminal, must be a pirate. And I think that Frakes directed this episode beautifully, because yes, it's subtle, but at the end, the meaning, the message is really here. And even if you still laugh about it, it's beautiful to see that these dumbass ensigns can have the life they have, even if it's not perfect. And that the Federation went through dark times, right?
Yeah.
Before we arrived there. But that in the end, there's still been social progress. And it's just, beautiful. And then my theory, because now I'm going to be light, but that the fact that they're animated is because they're always high, like, cracks me up. And that Mariner is just pouring shit into their drink that make them always feel this way is my new headcanon. And I love this. But it's a beautiful episode,
Yeah, I'm here for it. By the way, one of our amazing and longtime members, everyone knows Haven. Haven's freaking awesome. In the chat, posted exactly what Draft is talking about on our Discord. So if you want to know more about the Emmett Till and what Joe Biden did, you should go check out that article. It is on our Discord. I'm going to go funny before I go serious, and I'm going to go funny because I had to read Takako's comment. But how does Mariner know that Ransom sleeps that way? Raises one eyebrow. That's a very good question. And then to get serious, I cried at this exact same time Eric did, because Una is just so... Listen, like, we don't know what happens to Una. And now we have a little bit of knowledge, right? She doesn't... As far as we know, she doesn't have some like horrific thing happen to her, right? She has an amazing enough career where she is Starfleet propaganda. That's awesome. When Boimler says ad astra per aspera, I was crying, because that episode is a Hall of Fame episode of Star Trek and is so important to this franchise and everything that happened. And the fact that they were able to tie that into this, like, never in a million years was I expecting to hear those words on the Lower Decks crossover episode. And the fact that they did, and did it so well. And then, listen, is it a little bit like 1940s World War II propaganda that then Una winks at him and gives him a big smile? Yeah, but it's fucking epic, because like, that's like, hey, you enlisted, good job. I loved that, and I adored that. It's probably my first or second favorite scene of this entire thing. I don't know what else I could say about the animated ending. It was so good. And everybody knows about how I feel about Tendi. She's my favorite Lower Decks character. One of my favorite Trek characters of all time. Mistress of the Winter Constellation, also known as the Cleaner. Love getting some history. Adored it. With that being said, any final thoughts on this one?
I like how overall they kind of maintain the integrity of both shows, which, to be quite fair, is pretty damn hard to do.
Yep.
These shows are polar opposites in so many ways, but they kept the integrity of what each one is all about and who these shows are. They also still managed to actually progress important plot points in the show here. Like, they brought up the Spock and the Chapel relationship. They also gave us important things that we're going to see in the future in TOS, where they gave us a reason why Uhura and her ability to learn to be more of a relaxed person. Yeah.
All that thanks to Mariner.
Why the Enterprise is always fucked up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Boimler. And yeah, we got that. We also got, Spock, Pike, and Una more kind of like understanding their own journeys in time and history and coming to terms with it. So it was a lot going on here. There was a lot to unpack, and it was all just such good stuff. It exceeded my expectations well beyond what I thought this episode was going to be. Like I already said that earlier. I keep coming back to that point because it really was just that damn good. It was just that good. Every moment of it, I loved rewatching it. This is going to be one of those episodes that I have no problem rewatching again and again. And for the most part, I felt that way about a lot of this season of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's crazy the amount of people that I've seen online that are like, this is what Lower Decks is like. I'm going to watch Lower Decks now. I was like, yes, watch Lower Decks.
Where have you been? Welcome. But where have you been? Have
more
a drink.
dirty jokes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I never thought I would say that, but Lower Decks really elevated Strange New Worlds. Like, it brought a lot of, great question just by contrast. And I thought that they served it so well, and that it was still hilarious. Again, I laughed my ass off the first time I watched it. I cried. He says, at Strapper Aspera, like, I was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, she knows that it will get better. Because, like, that's what I want to know. I want a time traveler to come and tell me in 120 years, it will be better than now. And I'll be like, okay, I'll go for this. I'll go for this if, like, you swear it's going to be better. And that it managed to be a message of hope, even if they're two dumbasses. And it brought to me, I think, the most beautiful message we had this season of Strange New Worlds, that has had a lot of ups and downs, right? When we come to the social message that we expect in Star Trek. I mean, like, I don't watch Star Trek like I'd watch, I don't know, watch other show I watch that doesn't have that aspect, but I need to watch sci-fi for this also. And I think Strange New World have been missing the hints a lot this.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that the Lower Deckers are bringing some depth. Let's go. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes. And please just have Rex direct all your episodes.
Every episode. Yeah.
Every episode, because I can't go back. I can't go back. I can't go back. Please, I don't want to go back.
The last thing I want to say is kind of almost exactly what you just said. The fact that it does bring that, because I bring this up a lot on the show. This was meant to be a Strange New Worlds podcast, but Lower Decks holds a very special place in our heart because it is the first show that we started doing episode reviews on this podcast. So for that to now be such a big part of Strange New Worlds and to have this level of like depth in the episode, it's special and one of a kind. It really is. So I want to point that out as well. Speaking of Lower Decks being the first show that we ever reviewed, one of the things that we do on Lower Decks review episodes, we could do very briefly here, is an Easter egg hunt. Are there any Easter eggs that we didn't bring up during the review of the episode that you want to bring up now? Did we miss any?
Uhura studying Bajoran and Cardassian languages.
Yes.
And they're both not part of the Federation. So that's crazy.
I mean, the nosy cans being bad at dumb jot. And keeping on betting on it. I was like, that cracked me up.
The stuck in the dystopian San Francisco line.
The Bell Riots, yeah.
Bell Riots.
Oh my God. So
the one thing I noticed is just a technical little thing, and that's that when they went from animation to live action, the aspect ratio changed.
It did. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that means much Trek-wise, but it's just a cool little thing that they did. That's all.
Oh, and I want to add something that's very cool, is that tradition on having a piece of the previous ship name is actually a real thing. It's a real thing. Like, God, I'm again speaking about him. Like, husband served, like, was a sailor on the USS Niagara and in Pennsylvania. And apparently that's a thing. Like, they had like pieces of the old boat like brought into like the new boat. So I thought it was like really neat that they used actual naval history like for the plot of that episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a point?
They destroyed the artifact, by the way. They fucking destroyed it, which like irritated me. I was like, so you just destroyed the piece of the NX-01? Like,
yeah, that's fair.
That's
It was kind of important at the time, though.
Yeah.
It was. Any others that we missed?
Did we talk about the Cary Grant quote? Like, that's
no, we didn't.
No.
But yeah,
That's
Cary
a
Grant
weird
quote by
pull.
Philia.
It is a weird pull. I thought that whole scene was a little weird, period. But
I think it just to emphasize the fact that she's really, 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 really old.
Yeah,
But they keep bringing that up every time we talk to her.
Like, and she says it the same way. I'm a Lanthian. I've been alive for 1,000. Yeah, we know Pelia.
Yeah, but the only moment we really need her to be here and meet Amanda, she's not here. So again,
oh god,
Stranger World missing the hands.
Listen, the only other Easter egg, which I do think is an Easter egg, is right out of the credits when the Enterprise is flying by, and Nami's score is right out of when you would come out of the cold open from the credits, and the way like there's like dun dun dun, like that nice little like Cerritos flyby or Enterprise flyby. It was chef's kiss, perfect. Let's rate this one out of 10 Orion Hurricanes. We will go in the reverse order. So Giraffe, you'll hit it with our first rating. Go ahead.
It's a 10. I have no notes. Just please keep that level. There's 3 more episodes. I can't do charades anymore.
Fair. Who's up? Hawk.
And like this is easily like the
Did you just do this? You do 10.
I did this 10, baby. But like this was so far, this has been the best episode of the season. Like I'm not sure how they're gonna improve on this. Like maybe the musical is gonna like blow this one away, but right now, perfect.
Well, you know I hate musicals, right? So
oh boy, 2 weeks from now it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun. Eric,
going into this episode, part of me was like, are they just releasing this early to steer away from the bad press of canceling Prodigy? And that's what, was in my head the whole time I was watching this. But you know what? It didn't matter because this episode is fucking perfect. It's a 10 for me. It might be my favorite episode of Star Trek. I love it that much. Like, it's that good.
Matthew.
I'm going to say it's enough Orion Hurricanes to make my eyes huge and my arms be all wiggly. And so I can't count that high. I can't count that high. The sheer number of tachyons alone would blow my mind. So it's that much that I enjoyed it. And, we're going to see what happens because, that musical episode is coming up soon. I'm someone who has a pretty deep knowledge of musicals, so I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there and how it ties into Lower Decks here.
You should come back.
You should come back. Yep.
Might have to, but phenomenal episode. Very happy with this one.
Yep. Over on the YouTube collective, Michael Kwan gives us a 10 out of 10 Trek crossover episodes. Jim McMahon, 10 out of 10 Nausicaans playing Dom Job badly. K Quinn, 9 out of 10 creepy smiles. STMCD 1701, 10 out of 10 Orion Hurricanes top shelf. Jedi Cat, 10 out of 10 Orion Hurricanes. Haven, 99 out of 10 buying Orion Hurricanes for everyone on the USS Strange New Pod. Thank you. That's going to be an expensive fucking bar tab. Tara, 10 out of 10 high-pitched Boimy screams. I'm making a TikTok, don't you worry. Wayner, I'm giving this one a 20. Eric Summers, 10 out of 10 Orion Hurricanes. I'm under the table and over the moon. Norman Buckwald, 10 out of 10 easily. I think I gave it a 2 million out of 10 on Twitter, so I'm sticking with 2 million out of 10. Eric, not to steal your thunder, but I think this is probably made it into the top 3. Maybe it's my favorite. I've watched it 5 times already, and I'm probably going to watch it a 6th after the pod.
When we got the screener for this, I watched it twice, and then every single day I've watched it at least twice.
I didn't mention this on the pod, and I'm sorry. I know we're going super late, but I do have to bring this up.
We started half an hour later.
I know we did. This episode was another catalyst to make Cecily want to watch more Star Trek, and that is always a win. We watched so much Star Trek after this. We watched Trials and Tribulations, and she lost it. She loved it, and then she was like, "I want more." And then we watched Trouble with Edward, and she lost it. And then she's like, "I just want to watch more Star Trek. It doesn't need to be a crossover." So I showed her Q&A, and she loved it. We watched Short Treks, and she watched I can't remember the one with Michael, the stars, the girl under the stars, or that one. She wanted to see the Michael one. We watched that as well. So love that so much. Matthew, I know that you are running, we're running late and you might need to go. Do you want to stay through mailbag or do you have to go?
I think I actually might need to go. Oddly enough, because we're talking musicals here. I'm doing something for musical at this very moment that has to get finished tonight. So
okay, so then I will say, Matthew, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on once again. Please plug away. Tell us where people can find you. What do you have coming up, good sir?
All right, well, folks can check me out pretty much on everything at Trek Untold, and I hope that they please do, especially right now with what's going on in Hollywood. My show is a interview centric show, although I have started to dabble a little bit in reviewing here and there, a little bit, tiny bit. But that's, again, coming to a pause because of what's going on out of respect. But yeah, my show for the most part is interviewing folks who are in and around the Star Trek universe. And now is a great time to get caught up. And especially, since I talk to a lot of actors, a lot of performers, for what's going on now, if you want to get more of an understanding and appreciation for who these folks are that are currently on strike, please check out the podcast. And to be quite honest, I was technically done for my season, I guess, about a week or two ago. And then I decided actually a day or two ago to do one more, or a few days ago, to do one more final special episode before I take my summer break. I just recorded it today. I'm going to have to try and edit this thing also tomorrow. And I'm doing basically a Hollywood strike special. And so you guys are hearing this for the first time. I haven't posted anything on social media because I've been really damn busy. So I haven't even posted this on social yet. And to let you guys know, I don't quite know how I'm going to edit this thing all together, but I've got 6 special guests on this episode who we're doing a panel discussion with, and they're all guests who have been on my show before. So representing the WGA, the Writers Guild, I've got Lisa Klink, and she's going to talk about what's going on with the Writers Guild and why they're on strike. And then that leads into our discussion with members of SAG-AFTRA, and they're talking about all of the misconceptions, all the misinformation, and also giving you guys, really, quite honestly, a hell of a lot more information than we're hearing from the media. And there is a lot out there, but to be quite honest, these contracts, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of complexity, there's a lot of stuff that you and I don't know that goes on with these negotiations, what these negotiations even really entirely consist of. So breaking it down in this episode, it's going to be out on Thursday. I've got Tim Lunabus, who appeared in season 7 of TNG. I've got Bertilla Damas, who was in DS9 as Sakona for the Maquis Part 1 and 2, and in Voyager in an episode I can't remember at the moment, but it's a Borg-centric episode, which is one of my favorites of all time in Voyager. I've got Phil Morris, multi-time Star Trek guy from way back in the original series, Star Trek 3, DS9, Enterprise. Like, this guy's done it all. And as far as character actor goes, this guy's done everything. And then Armin Shimmerman and Kitty Swink.
Oh, nice.
So, awesome. And a lot of these folks who I'm talking to have also served as board members with SAG-AFTRA. So they know a lot of insight. Bertilla's husband is part of the group that negotiated what's going on right now, apparently. So This is like some real deep, heavy insider information here. So if you want to really get an understanding of what's happening with these strikes, better educate yourself, and also better educate yourself to talk to other people about what's going on and help them understand why this stuff's important. We're talking to AI, we're talking to residuals, we're talking to healthcare. There's so many issues. So that is this Thursday, as long as I get everything done in time, because it's a lot of stuff to put together on such short minute notice. But it's a big one. I highly recommend it. It's going to be my last one until summer's over, basically. So that's what's going on with me. And I think the last time I actually was here was like for season 1 of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah,
I think I was like,
it's like tradition. It's tradition. So
last thing I wanted to say is since it's been that long since we spoke, I moved all my podcasts from my Nerd News Today channel onto a separate channel, which is just called Trek Untold. So if you were following me previously and way back when for Ghost of Illyria, please now check out youtube.com/@TrekUntold, because everything's been moved over there. And in doing so, I basically lost all the old subscribers I had. I lost all my old views that I had. So I basically started over from scratch in November. So I definitely could use the support. I could use the subscribers. I could use the views. If you're new or if you're an old fan, you're not already following Trek Untold, please do so. That would be amazing. So I want to thank you guys again, because I always love doing this show with you guys. My show is it's very solo. Fun. I don't get to really talk to people. As far as like a group and have these kinds of discussions, I'm talking real deep, heavy stuff with writers, actors, performers, whatever. So it's nice to actually get to be a fan. And I'm always appreciative that you guys are willing to bring me on. So thank you for letting me be part of your community tonight.
You are very welcome. We love having you, and we will definitely have you on again soon. We are not going to take up any more of your time because you sound busy as hell. So go edit, have fun. It was a pleasure, sir.
Thank you all so very much. Thank you to all the Strange New Pod chatters as well. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you. Fortune favors the bold, y'all.
Matt.
And with that, we are going to go, as long as Eric gives me the thumbs up. Yeah, we're good. We are going to go into the Subspace to Poll and Mailbag.
Shipwide, Cadet Aurora.
Aye, sir.
And we asked X, Twitter, what the hell is that Klingon shit stain Elon done? Like, what the fuck is it now? It's something like, Jesus. Anyway, we asked whatever that social media platform's called now, what they thought about those old scientists, and this is what they had to say. Who wants it? Who wants to read the numbers?
I'll do it.
Hit it.
We asked Twitter, and they said 65% said Worf's honor, 19% said, more Orion hurricanes. 4% said, I'm going with it. And 12% said, the hell's in these?
12. I'm gonna guess that some of the people just thought that was also a good option and went with that because if you hated this episode, who hurt you? Like, I actually asked someone that on our Instagram and they got very pissy and I blocked them. It was fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They didn't like it. Let's see. We're in the mailbag now, and it was Eric, which means it's Hawk. Can you take JMC Trek's mailbag, please?
Sure. JMC Trek wrote, absolutely love those old scientists. I haven't laughed so hard in a long time. It was great to see Jack and Tawny's verbal sparring on Lower Decks translates really well to on-screen live-action chemistry.
Indeed. And Draft, can you take Eric the Reds, please?
Eric the Red wrote, oh my god, this was a fun episode. I knew this episode would bring the laughs, but I had no idea it would have every member of the bridge crew interact with Boimler and Mariner. It's a clever mix of a Strange New World and a Lower Decks episode woven together. Love the animated bookends to the episode. Love that the episode contributes to the development of the Strange New World characters. Jack and Tawny were amazing. Lots of heartfelt moments. A solid 10 out of 10.
Very nice. I'll take Fefs. Fefs wrote, this was an absolute delight. Lower Deckers being Lower Deckers causing mayhem in Strange New Worlds was everything my heart desired. And we also had character development for the Strange New Worlds crew. 10 out of 10. No further comments. Eric, you take Strange Free Worlds, please.
Strange Free World wrote, so much fun. The ransom reaction to the poster at the end was a nice meta touch. Spock's smile was disturbing in the best way possible. Wasn't expecting a touch of horror 2 weeks in a row.
It's very true. Hawk with Michael Kwans, please.
Sure. Michael Kwan wrote, I got home late from a hot, humid, draining Saturday and bad freeway traffic. I watched this episode and smiled the whole time and ended up with a full heart. The writers and producers got the balance and tone right, but could not have done it without Jack Quaid embodying Brad Boimler so fully and Tawny Newsome becoming Beckett Mariner. The S&W crew were great in their reactions to these two forces of chaos. Ultimately, though, it was amazing that it was the animated characters that were the most caring and most human of the episode.
So true. We were literally talking about that for a lot of the episode. Giraffe, you get the Romulan again.
Oh my God,
Professor
again.
Time Travelers.
I want to say, because we're reading the mailbag, I want to thank everybody that sent me private emails and DMs for thanking me for my review of Charades, episode 205, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I read every single one of yours. I listened to all the, even like vocal messages that I received.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't answer everybody, but thank you. I took note of all your praise and all your thanks and everything. So, Prof Time Traveler. Deep down, I thought they'd use Baumler's knowledge of the past to further cement some of the changes the show has made, like having him comment on a Gorn War or imply that Chapel and Spock have some famous relationship. Instead, I got the opposite. Chapel finding out her relationship with Spock is not one for the history books was the first time I could see the show's plan for these two characters. Using Baumler's expectation to get meta on us was brilliant and may have even settled me down about some of my own reservations. I just have to try my best to enjoy the characters for what they are now rather than who they will become, even if that's sort of an ironic task after the last shot of episode 6.
Indeed.
True.
Yeah,
oh my God, that's
true.
a good review. Yes.
Yeah, really good. Jessica wrote, I think this may be my favorite episode of the season so far. It was my top kind of episode, an episode where you would have fun watching. I laughed so much and loved all the little references and character moments. Erica was a highlight for sure. Loved the Domjot scene so much. It's just such a delight to see the crew as a family. And the final 2D scene was the perfect finale. Another Frakes great.
Damn straight.
And moving on back to Eric with Taras.
Is that Boimler's limerick? Because I want her to have written the limerick that Boimler didn't give
That's
us.
what she did.
Yeah,
That's what she did.
Yes.
She wrote her own and she wrote Boimler. She wrote 2 this week.
Yes. I think this is my favorite episode of Trek ever. It made me so happy, I barely have words. I love the surprise of the intro and animation, and it was beautiful. And then the final scene bookending the episode. A gift to the fans on the level of all the world's a stage. Bravi tutti. And now, your limericks, yes to. These old scientists, 207. Cruel myths bees Aronium readings require a survey. Then its portal is activated like some time-bending causeway. Young Boimler tumbles through, and of course, Mariner's like, hey, me too. And the lock at Pike's party allows a fascinatingly animated display. Ooh, that was
very nice.
That was
good.
That was really good. And then Boimler's unspoken apology limerick. God. I had so many throwful expectations, imagining meeting heroes with your stellar reputations. But when I presumed who you are now was subsumed, your enterprise-nothing has rocked my foundations. Fantastic.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Hawk, you take Jedi Cats, please.
Sure. Jedi Cat Road, Those Old Scientists was the episode I was most excited about, and it delivered. A love letter to Star Trek and its fans alike, it was equal parts exciting, funny, and heartfelt. Like many of the best Trek episodes, Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome had such a great rapport with the cast, and I love that every crew member had a moment with Boimler and or Mariner. All the creatives behind this episode, including Jonathan Frakes, deserve every kudos, and it would be a crime if it gets shut out of the Emmys, but it probably will. So
yeah. Draft with Chris's, please.
Chris wrote, those old scientists look pretty young and real. These episodes hit every cliche correctly and make them work so well. Tawny Newsom, I suppose.
No, he's making the joke because she used to have her Twitter handle be Trondy Newman.
Okay, Trondy Newman killed it in her acting, and Jack became Boim Boim so well, it is almost uncanny. This episode may well be at the top of my list of Trek episodes. Full stop.
Nice. Haven wrote, the episode is exactly the crossover that we needed. It may be the only official crossover that we have seen in Trek. No, because of Trials and Tribulations, TNG and DS9, Voyager and DS9. There's a few. There's a lot, actually. There's a good amount. That we've seen in Trek, but I was recently reminded of the last great crossover that we had in the show that only exists in our memories. If we don't have physical media, Star Trek Prodigy. Save Star Trek Prodigy. It even actually returned my feelings I had of Lower Deck Season 1 and 2. Very nice.
Kobayashi Maru, right?
Yeah, Kobayashi Maru. Yep. Eric with Collins, please.
Colin D wrote, seriously, Jack and Tawny knocked it out of the park. It's one thing to crack up and be silly when you're in a booth with a mic. It's quite another to bring that energy to live action and to do it as well as they did. Really pleased with getting a little bit from each of the Strange New World cast too. They were all individually so enjoyable. My favorite thing? So many hilarious Boimler screams. I laughed and laughed. Ransom's reaction to the poster was a cool touch too. Love this one. 10 out of 10.
Very nice. And take us home, please, Hawk, with NY Relights, please.
Yes, NY Relight wrote this will be one of those episodes that regularly makes my rewatch list. It was funny, heartwarming, and very much Trek. I also appreciated that the writers acknowledged fans who question how far they can take the Spock Chapel romance, given what we know of the TOS era and beyond. My one quibble is I wish we had seen Tendy's grandmother on screen. I rarely give 10s, but this episode is 10 hot Una recruitment posters.
Very nice way to end it. Speaking of ending it, we gotta go. It's late, guys. This was a blast. 2 quick announcements. Join us this Wednesday. Me, Draft, probably MC. I think maybe Matthew again, as long as he's not terribly busy editing. And Hawk, Eric's going to sit this one out because he doesn't watch trailers. We are going to do a San Diego Comic-Con wrap-up on Wednesday, same bat time, same bat place. And then join us the very next day for a review of episode 208, which I believe is titled, off the top of my head, Among the Fog of War.
The cloak of war.
I was so close. So close.
Oh, yeah, because I was thinking about Romulan all the time, so I can tell you it's cloak.
And joining us are our dear, dear, dear friends for that one, the Duras sisters. So lot going on this week for Hawk, for Eric.
Also, we will be at Fan Expo Canada, so get your tickets. The pre-sale or the sale's on right now, so the early bird prices are still in effect until August 9th. So get your tickets now.
Yep, that's right. So for Hawk, for Eric, for Draft, I am Julian. Live long and prosper, Majram. Good night.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.